Chapter 1275. Almost at the same time the two of them attacked. Two terrifying auras bloomed in the core of the ruins of deity. The master of the Mu family was a genuine LV3 martial royal realm expert. He was stronger than Xiaowan and De. He formed a giant hand and grabbed at Lu Ming. As for the burly man from the heavenly god sect, his aura was unfathomable. Lin Fan could only sense that he was much stronger than the master of the Mu family. He waved his hand and a giant bird appeared. It opened its mouth and bit at Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing were stunned. However, they remained calm and stood still at the door of the palace. Those who trespass in the space-time spiritual palace will be killed. Suddenly, a cold voice came from the palace. The voice was cold and emotionless, without the slightest trace of emotion. Swoosh! Swoosh! Two spear radiances shot out from the palace. The black spear radiances, with terrifying radiance, collided with the attacks of the master of the Mu family and the burly man from the heavenly god sect. The two attacks were penetrated by the spear radiances. However, the two spear radiances disappeared. Roar! A dragon roar shook the heavens and earth. Bang! 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 Following which, a massive creature slowly walked out from the palace. Every step it took caused the ground to tremble. This, when the Mu family's patriarch, young Master Lin, and the middle-aged man from the celestial god sect saw the giant creature walking out of the palace. Their pupils shrank as they revealed shocked expressions. The behemoth that walked out of the palace was naturally the headless, true Dragon Knight. Bubble had brought Lu Ming and the rest to the core of the ruins of deity through the space-time tunnel. Lu Ming had the Chaos Origin token. The headless true dragon rider treated Lu Ming as one of its own. However, the master of the Mu family and the rest did not have the Chaos Origin token. Moreover, they attacked the palace. Naturally, they were attacked by the headless true dragon rider. The headless true dragon rider was formed after the death of a supreme expert. It was not a living creature. Therefore, the master of the Mu family and the burly man from the heavenly god sect could not sense it. "Kill without mercy," said the headless true dragon rider. It was unknown where the voice came from, but then a shocking dragon roar sounded out. The headless true dragon stretched out a dragon claw and grabbed towards the Mu family's clan leader. As the dragon claw swiped out, it rapidly grew in size. In the end, it covered the sky and the sun, enveloping the entire world. Under the dragon claw, space could not withstand a single blow and was reduced to a mess. Eternal clear sky. The Mu family's patriarch felt a fatal threat. He raised his head to the sky and roared. He punched out, and an ancient tree that looked like the legendary world god tree smashed towards the dragon claw. This attack was the strongest attack of the Mu clan's patriarch. It combined the power of the realm and the spiritual body, making it extremely powerful. Ordinary LV2 martial royal realm cultivators would be severely injured or even killed by this attack. But in the next moment, the Mu family's patriarch's pupils contracted sharply, because when the dragon claw fell, the ancient tree that he struck out couldn't even hold up for a breath. It disintegrated into energy and dissipated, but the dragon claw didn't stop and continued to claw towards the Mu family's patriarch. This claw sealed the void. Even if the Mu family head wanted to escape, he could not do so. "Save me!" The Mu family's patriarch was scared. He let out a loud roar. His spiritual body shone, and the power of the realm spread out. He punched out crazily with both fists. But under the dragon claw, everything was useless. It was futile. The Mu family's patriarch's attack and defense were like tofu under the dragon claw. They couldn't withstand a single blow. On the side, the burly man from the celestial god sect wanted to help. He launched an attack at the dragon claw, but he couldn't shake the dragon claw at all. No. The Mu family's patriarch roared in despair. In the next moment, the dragon claw covered his body and began to shrink. The Mu family's patriarch was caught in the dragon claw. "No! Spare my life! Spare my life!" the Mu family's patriarch roared in horror. "Kill!" The headless true dragon rider's voice was emotionless. As the dragon claw clenched, the Mu family's patriarch's body exploded with a bang. His body and soul were destroyed. Whoosh, whoosh! The rider on the true dragon rider's neck actually emitted a powerful suction force, absorbing all of the Mu family's blood essence and energy. Lu Ming lamented in his heart. If he were to refine the sovereign's blood essence, he would definitely be able to upgrade the prison-suppressing steel bloodline to level 9 divine rank. At the same time, Lu Ming was secretly shocked. The headless true dragon rider was too strong. That headless true dragon was definitely a pure-blooded true dragon. He didn't know what realm it had reached when it was alive, but it was definitely an invincible existence. It could still maintain such a powerful combat strength after so many years. Damn it, let's go. The middle-aged man from the celestial god sect was terrified. The headless true dragon rider's strength was far beyond his expectations. Although his cultivation was much stronger than the Mu family's patriarch, facing the headless true dragon rider, he felt a sense of impending disaster. After the Mu family's patriarch was killed, he didn't hesitate to tear the space apart and escape with young Master Lin. "Kill!" The headless true dragon rider roared coldly again. Then it clawed out again. A black dragon claw covered the sky, grabbing towards the middle-aged man and young Master Lin. The terrifying power not only made the middle-aged man's face change, but also almost scared young Master Lin to death. Run, run! Young Master Lin screamed like a madman. The dragon claw clawed down, sealing the space in all directions. The middle-aged man from the celestial god sect was in the same situation as the Mu family's patriarch. He couldn't break the space apart at all. The dragon claw didn't stop and continued to claw down. Swoosh! At this moment, the middle-aged man from the celestial god sect threw young Master Lin towards the dragon claw. He took out a jade token with a pained look on his face. The true yuan in his body, crazily, poured into the jade token. "No, no, don't. You'll die a horrible death." Young Master Lin was thrown out. He was so scared that he peed his pants and screamed crazily. He struggled with all his might. However, with his cultivation, he was as small as an ant under the dragon claw. He wasn't even worth mentioning. "No, save me, Lu Ming, please let me go." Young Master Lin screamed incoherently. At this moment, his heart was filled with regret. This was all because he had taken a liking to Xie Nianqing back then and had a conflict with Lu Ming, which led to all of this. Later on, when he was defeated by Lu Ming in public, he harbored even more hatred in his heart. He bribed the middle-aged, burly man of the celestial god sect with great benefits and instigated him to deal with Lu Ming. If it wasn't for all of this, he wouldn't have ended up in this state. He screamed, but in the end, the dragon claw pressed down, and young Master Lin's body exploded. Under the terrifying force, he turned into dust. The dragon claw continued to claw towards the middle-aged man from the celestial god sect. At this moment, the jade token in the celestial god sect's hand emitted a dazzling light. Then a light sword appeared. It carried the celestial god sect's man and broke through the space, escaping rapidly. Bam! The dragon claw clawed down. One of its fingers swept towards the celestial god sect's man. Chapter 1276. The man from the heavenly god sect spat out mouthfuls of blood after being hit by the headless true dragon rider. The man from the heavenly god sect was horrified. Even with his cultivation, he could not stop the headless true dragon rider. Terrified, he used the secret talisman to break open the space and run for his life. Swoosh! Although the headless true dragon rider did not have a head, it seemed to be able to see everything. It thrust the dragon's spear in its hand forward, and a brilliant spear, glow, pierced through the space and disappeared into the void. A cry of agony was heard from a distance away. It was the voice of the man from the heavenly god sect. Following this, the voice fell silent and completely disappeared. Come again, kill without mercy. The headless true dragon rider said coldly. It then turned around and left, disappearing from the palace. The space outside the ruins of the deity suddenly cracked open, and the man from the heavenly god sect stepped out from it. At this moment he was in a sorry state. His body was covered in blood, and his face was pale. Blood continued to flow out from his mouth. There was a bloody hole in his abdomen. A terrifying force was constantly eating away at his flesh. Even with his cultivation, he could not heal it immediately. Too powerful. The man from the heavenly god sect mumbled. He stared into the depths of the ruins of the deity with fear in his eyes. His cultivation had surpassed the third-layer martial royal realm. However, when facing the headless true dragon rider, he did not have much room to resist. If he did not have a life-saving treasure on him and wanted to escape at the same time, he would have stayed in the ruins of the deity forever. Even so, he was still severely injured. It would take a few months for him to recover. How could there be such a dangerous place in the ruins of the deity? Damn it. Also, it's Lu Ming's fault. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been severely injured. I will send a message to the Southern God Palace and ask them to keep an eye on the ruins of the deity. Once that bastard Lu Ming appears, kill him without mercy. The man from the heavenly god sect's eyes flickered with a vicious light. He pondered for a moment before turning around and leaving the place, the core of the ruins of the deity. Lu Ming looked in the direction where the man from the heavenly god sect had left and said with a frown, "That guy is too powerful. He's not dead yet. I'm afraid he won't give up. The ruins of the deity is not a place for us. Let's leave immediately." Okay. Xian Yinqing also nodded without hesitation. The ruins of the deity sect was surrounded. Of the deity sect, before the deity sect, Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing immediately passed through the hall and exited the ruins of God from the opposite direction of the Southern Divine Palace. To Lu Ming, there was not much of a threat in the ruins of God. Very soon, Lu Ming passed through the core of the ruins of God and rushed out of the ruins of God from another direction. Sex. Deity, deity, deity. Com sect, S. After flying for tens of millions of miles, it finally stopped. It was obviously not feasible to return to the Southern Deity Palace by flying across the sea. Once they returned, the man from the heavenly god sect might seize the opportunity to assassinate them. It was too dangerous. Lu Ming planned to cross the sea and return to the divine, desolate continent by himself. If Lu Ming's cultivation was before he came to the deity continent, it would be too difficult for him to cross the vast sea and return to the divine, desolate continent. He didn't know how much time it would take. But now Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the 8th level of the spirit god realm. His battle strength could even suppress a supreme being. He could rely on his own strength to return to the divine, desolate continent. Little Qing, stay in the mountain and river diagram for this period of time. Lu Ming said to Xian Yinqing, "Okay. Be careful." Xian Yinqing said. Xian Yinqing also knew that Lu Ming could only travel at full speed if she stayed in the mountain and river diagram. "Don't worry." Lu Ming smiled slightly. Then a white light shot out from between his eyebrows and enveloped Xian Yinqing. In the next moment, Xian Yinqing's figure disappeared as she was taken into the mountain and river diagram. Lu Ming's figure flashed and turned into a stream of light, disappearing from the place. Soon, Lu Ming flew for hundreds of millions of miles and found a hidden place. Lu Ming entered the mountain and river diagram. Xian Yinqing sat cross-legged under the Enlightenment ancient tree, cultivating wholeheartedly. Lu Ming came to another mountain peak. With a wave of his hand, piles of origin stones appeared in front of Lu Ming. That's right, Lu Ming was about to break through. Lu Ming currently had 5 types of intents. 4 of them were at the perfection of the 4th level. Only the earth intent was at the peak of the 4th level. With his current intent cultivation, he could raise his cultivation to the peak of the 9th level of the spirit god realm. Lu Ming planned to spend some time to devour and refine origin stones to raise his cultivation to the peak of the 9th level of the spirit god realm. This way, he would be much faster when traveling. Roar! The 9 dragons appeared and opened their mouths, swallowing a large pile of origin stones. There were a few million of them. He swallowed a few million origin stones in one gulp and started to refine them quickly. A large number of origin stones were constantly refined and turned into true essence. Lu Ming almost had no bottlenecks. His cultivation was rising crazily. After refining a few million origin stones, he swallowed another few million. Lu Ming's cultivation started to soar. Early 8th level of the spirit god realm. Middle 8th level of the spirit god realm. Late 8th level of the spirit god realm. 7 days later, Lu Ming broke through the barrier with a large number of origin stones and reached the 9th level of the spirit god realm. After reaching the 9th level of the spirit god realm, Lu Ming still didn't stop. He continued to devour and refine origin stones to raise his cultivation. Early 9th level of the spirit god realm, middle 9th level of the spirit god realm, late 9th level of the spirit god realm. After another 7 days, Lu Ming's cultivation reached the peak of the 9th level of the spirit god realm. In a short half a month, Lu Ming's cultivation had charged from the early 8th level of the spirit god realm to the peak of the 9th level of the spirit god realm. The leap was so great that it was shocking. Of course, this was also because Lu Ming's intent had reached the requirements long ago. Otherwise, intent would become a bottleneck and obstruct Lu Ming's breakthrough. As long as Lu Ming's intent broke through, he wouldn't have any bottlenecks. However, the amount of origin stones he consumed was also terrifying. In a short half a month, Lu Ming had devoured a total of 50 million origin stones. What kind of shocking amount was this? Huff, huff, Lu Ming exhaled. He felt that the true essence in his body was about to overflow. It was unimaginably dense. When he exhaled, it formed a storm that swept into the distance. Lu Ming stood up and took a step forward. He charged out of the mountain-river diagram and appeared in the sky above a mountain range. Boom! True essence boiled on Lu Ming's body, forming a pillar of air that shot into the sky and blasted a huge hole in the sky. So strong! A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Lu Ming's mouth. He felt that there was inexhaustible energy in his body. The true essence of a peak 9th level spirit god was too strong. It was unknown how much stronger it was than the true essence of an early 8th level spirit god realm. Now, Lu Ming was confident that when facing an ordinary prime, Lu Ming could crush them and even kill them without the help of the lightning cauldron. Of course, it was a different story for primes who had awakened a 9th level divine rank bloodline. Let's go back to the divine desolate continent now. Chapter 1277. Given Lu Ming's current cultivation, he could tear apart space and travel like a supreme being. After tearing space apart, Lu Ming stepped in and disappeared. Within the spatial rift, there were chaotic spatial storms. They were like countless terrifying sharp blades that constantly slashed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming circulated his true essence and covered his entire body to resist the spatial storms around him. Clang! 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 The spatial storms slashed at Lu Ming's protective true essence and produced a clang. However, Lu Ming's true essence contained the 5-colored concept. The spatial storms couldn't break through Lu Ming's protective true essence at all. If a martial artist below the spiritual god realm entered this place, they would be crushed into pieces by the spatial storms in less than 2 moves. Even martial artists above the spiritual god realm wouldn't be able to last long. Only sovereigns could smoothly walk through the spatial storms. Lu Ming stepped out and walked through the spatial storms, moving forward quickly. This was a different space, so his speed was very fast. With a step, he had already traveled an unknown distance in the outside world. A moment later, the space trembled and Lu Ming reappeared in the outside world, above a lake. In just a moment, Lu Ming had crossed at least 100 million miles. However, the godly ruins continent was simply too vast. Hundreds of millions of miles were nothing to them. Lu Ming continued to tear space apart. After half a day, Lu Ming didn't know how much distance he had crossed. When Lu Ming appeared in the outside world again, he smelled the sea breeze. "Looks like I've reached the seaside. I'll rest for a while before setting off," Lu Ming thought in his heart. Then he found a place and took out an origin stone to recover. A few hours later, Lu Ming's true essence had completely recovered. Then he flew forward. In front of him, there was a large city. From afar, it looked very majestic. Lu Ming planned to buy a sea map of the Divine Ruins continent in a big city. After all, the continents in the Divine Ruins continent were very far from each other. The area of the sea was far greater than the land, and the weather was very changeable on the sea. It was very easy to get lost, so one needed a sea map to find the Divine Wilderness continent. There are so many people in this city. Moreover, the ratio of experts is shockingly high. After flying into the city, Lu Ming discovered that the city was bustling with people coming and going. Experts could be seen walking on the streets from time to time. Some of them had extremely strong and powerful auras. There was also someone who was like an ordinary person without any aura. But with Lu Ming's current cultivation, he could still sense it. Supreme martial artist. Some of them were actually supreme beings. On the street, Lu Ming actually bumped into a few supreme beings, which made Lu Ming extremely shocked. Even in the godly ruins continent, supremes were high and mighty experts. It was rare to see them. Now, just by casually walking around on the street, he actually bumped into a few supremes. This was somewhat unbelievable. Something was wrong. Lu Ming felt that something was wrong. It was impossible for supreme beings to appear casually. Something must have happened here. Soon, Lu Ming went up to a restaurant. There was often a lot of information to be gathered in a restaurant. Sure enough, not long after, Lu Ming heard an important piece of news. Some time ago, there was a shocking piece of news near the southern coast of the godly ruins continent. It was said that a heaven-defying secret technique, pure spirit body, was about to be born on the southern coast. If a martial artist wanted to break through to the martial emperor realm, they had to condense a spirit body. Every martial artist had awakened different bloodlines, so the spirit body they condensed would be different and its power would be different. A spirit body had already surpassed a mortal body. It was a world of difference compared to a mortal body. There was no comparison at all. A spirit body not only contained terrifying power, but also greatly increased one's combat strength. Moreover, the strength, defense, and recovery of a spirit body had reached an incredible level. It was not something a mortal body could compare to. Even if a ruler's hands and feet were cut off, they could quickly grow back. It was said that a peak ruler could recover even if only a small piece of flesh was left. They were simply immortal. However, it was too difficult to condense a spirit body. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Many supremes had comprehended the embryonic form of domains. In terms of domains, there were no big problems. However, the reason why they were stuck and some could not break through for the rest of their lives was that they could not condense a spirit body. If one could not condense a spirit body, one would not be a ruler and would never be able to break through to the martial emperor realm. Moreover, when condensing a spirit body, one would also face heavenly tribulations. The difficulty would increase with each tribulation. It was said that this secret technique, called pure spirit body, was not a real spirit body. This was because a spirit body was transformed from a bloodline. It had some of the attributes and functions of a bloodline. However, a pure spirit body only had pure physical strength and did not have any attributes. It only allowed a martial artist body to have part of the power of a spirit body. For example, strength, defense, recovery, and so on. Moreover, a pure spirit body did not have any attributes. It would not obstruct the cultivation of a real spirit body in the future. Successfully cultivating a pure spirit body was equivalent to having a solid foundation. In the future, if one wanted to cultivate a real spirit body, the difficulty would be greatly reduced. This secret technique was too shocking. For martial artists below rulers, the temptation was unimaginable. Therefore, when this news spread, it caused a huge commotion. Countless powerhouses rushed to the southern coast of the Divine Ruins continent. Even many supremes were tempted and rushed over. This was also the reason why Lu Ming saw so many powerhouses in this city. The secret technique, pure spirit body, was too shocking. As long as one succeeded in cultivating it, the difficulty of breaking through to the ruler realm in the future would be greatly reduced, and the success rate would be greatly increased. Even Lu Ming's eyes lit up when he heard this. There's actually such a profound, secret technique in the world. If I succeed in cultivating it, I'll have another powerful method to deal with Di when I return to the divine wilderness continent. Lu Ming thought to himself. When he returned to the divine wilderness continent, he would definitely face Di. Although Lu Ming's combat strength had greatly improved, it was still difficult for him to face a ruler, let alone a powerhouse like Di. He had to continue to increase his combat strength so that he would have a greater chance. Pure spirit body was undoubtedly a powerful secret technique that could close the distance between him and a ruler. If Lu Ming succeeded in cultivating it, the gap between his body and that of a ruler would not be too big. I don't know if it's true or not, but I don't care. Anyway, I'm not in a hurry to go back, so I'll stay here and observe. After making up his mind, Lu Ming found an inn nearby to stay and inquire about the news. The next day, a piece of news spread out. There might be news about pure spirit body in the Red Devil Mountains, thousands of kilometers away. As soon as the news spread out, countless people rushed to the Red Devil Mountains. Lu Ming followed the crowd and rushed toward the Red Devil Mountains. The Red Devil Mountains had a radius of thousands of kilometers and were boundless. It was filled with a red demonic chi, so it was called the Red Devil Mountains. As soon as the huge crowd rushed into the Red Devil Mountains, they were like gravel scattered in the sea, unable to stir up any waves. Chapter 1278. Wandering around aimlessly like this was not a solution at all. There was no way he could find the pure spirit body. I'd better wait outside for news. Wandering around like this is purely a waste of time. Thinking of this, Lu Ming did not continue to stay and flew out of the Red Demon Mountain. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. When he passed by a large canyon, a few figures rushed out of the canyon and surrounded Lu Ming. Lu Ming frowned slightly. These few people all had violent auras and were surrounded by demonic chi. They stared at Lu Ming with unfriendly eyes. Haha, another fat sheep. This is already the third one. One of the burly men laughed. Those people really thought that there was information about the pure spirit body here and ran here desperately. It's really convenient for us brothers. The more we kill, the more we can live freely for a few more years. A skinny old man sneered. Don't talk nonsense with him. Kid, it's your bad luck to bump into us. One of the burly men looked at Lu Ming coldly and walked towards Lu Ming step by step. It seems that not only do you want to rob, but you also want to kill. Lu Ming spoke. His voice was very calm, without a trace of panic. He had already seen through the cultivation of these people. The strongest burly man was only a perfected spirit god. Lu Ming did not take him seriously at all. That's right. If we don't kill you and you spread the news, not only will we not be able to continue, but we will also be surrounded. So you must die. The burly man revealed a ferocious smile. He took a step forward and appeared in front of Lu Ming. A pitch-black saber appeared in his hand, emitting a cold, murderous intent. He slashed at Lu Ming, but in the next moment, the burly man was stunned. The others were also stunned. This was because Lu Ming merely stretched out one palm and pinched the battle saber gently. Regardless of how the burly man tried, he could not pull out the battle saber. The battle saber was pinched by Lu Ming and was as steady as a rock. How is this possible? The burly man roared madly. His voice was filled with disbelief. Boom! The quintessence in Lu Ming's body burst out. A terrifying energy flowed from his fingers and blasted into the other party's saber. Wong! The saber violently vibrated, and the berserk power flowed through the saber into the burly man's body. The burly man's body violently shook, and he could no longer hold onto the saber. His body madly retreated, and he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Kill! Lu Ming suddenly shouted, and a terrifying killing intent burst out like a tide. He took a step forward, and his palm slashed out like a blade towards the burly man. That terrifying power caused the burly man's heart to tremble. Block it! The tall and sturdy man roared madly. He used bloodline fusion and erupted with his full strength, hoping to block Lu Ming's move. Bang! The moment they exchanged blows, the burly man's bloodline, as well as his body, was torn apart. Even the spirit divinity couldn't escape and was killed by Lu Ming in a single move. Ordinary perfection stage, spirit god realm martial artists were as weak as babies in front of Lu Ming and couldn't withstand a single blow. How could this be? Run! When the remaining few people saw this scene, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Then they screamed in horror and fled in all directions. It's too late to run now. Lu Ming sneered, and his figure flashed rapidly. Soon, a few miserable screams resounded in the mountain forest. The remaining few people were all killed by Lu Ming, and their storage rings were all in Lu Ming's hands. Lu Ming's figure flashed, and he left this place. Not long after, Lu Ming left the Red Devil Mountain and sat cross-legged on a mountain peak that wasn't very high, waiting for news. Those guys have been killing and robbing. I wonder if there's anything good? Since he had nothing to do, Lu Ming took out the storage rings of the few people he had just killed and casually counted them. These guys were indeed very rich. The total amount of origin stones was close to 50 million, and there were also various kinds of spirit weapons and spirit herbs. Obviously, these guys had robbed many people during this period of time, and they were filthy rich. Suddenly, a metal box caught Lu Ming's attention. Lu Ming opened the metal box and found a rolled-up picture inside. The picture was made of some unknown material. It was light in his hand, and the texture was very soft. Lu Ming opened it, and his eyes couldn't help but narrow. It seemed to be a map, but the drawing was very complicated. The lines crisscrossed, and for a moment Lu Ming was a little dazzled. Map? Could it be related to the pure spirit body? Lu Ming's heart couldn't help but move, and then he smiled and shook his head. It couldn't be so coincidental that he could get the map of the pure spirit body after killing a group of bandits. I'll find some time to study it. Lu Ming smiled faintly and put away the map. He then meditated and adjusted his breath, waiting quietly. 3 days passed, and many people came out of the Red Devil Mountain. In these few days, many experts had almost turned the entire Red Devil Mountain upside down, but there was no news of the pure spirit body. Damn, I've probably been tricked. If I find out who tricked me, I'll cut him into 8 pieces. Damn it, there's nothing here. What a waste of time. Some experts cursed and left the Red Devil Mountain. Lu Ming also left the Red Devil Mountain and returned to the city. When everyone returned to the city, they heard an important piece of news. It was said that someone had obtained a map to find the pure spirit body. Through the map, one could find the location of the pure spirit body. There were already many experts chasing after the person who had the map, and the direction was south, toward the sea. When the news came out, it caused a commotion. Many experts hurried out of the city and flew toward the south. Map! Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and he couldn't help but think of the map he had obtained from the group of bandits. There can't be 2 maps, right? Lu Ming shook his head and also left the city, heading toward the south. Everyone was as fast as lightning. They crossed a long distance and finally stopped at a swamp, because there were many people around the periphery of the swamp. The person who obtained the map is a supreme being. Someone spread the news, and most people's expressions changed. If a supreme being obtained the map, who could snatch it from him? Warriors below the supreme being level were simply courting death. No wonder so many people surrounded the periphery of the swamp and didn't dare to enter. I know which supreme being it is. It should be the 100 Poisons supreme being. He obtained the map and fled into the endless swamp. There are already supreme being experts in there. I heard that the son of the Southern Divine Palaces, Sea-suppressing general, led many supreme beings in there. It's definitely going to be a big battle. Many people were discussing. This news made most of the warriors stop in their tracks, and they didn't dare to enter. Obviously, the endless swamp would become a battlefield for supreme beings. If others entered, there was no hope of obtaining the map, and they might even lose their lives. Whoosh! Suddenly, a figure rushed into the swamp and disappeared. Who is that? How dare he enter? Nonsense, that's a supreme being. Chapter 1279. At the same time that supreme exalts appeared from time to time, it caused everyone to be shocked and slightly excited. This time, countless supreme exalts would be drawn over. Look, who's that? He actually dares to go in? Suddenly, someone cried out. Everyone looked over and noticed a young man was walking through the air towards the swamp. This young man was naturally Lu Ming. It really is him. That kid really doesn't want to live anymore. He actually dares to charge in. How audacious! In my opinion, he isn't audacious, and he's overestimating his ability. He's blinded by greed. A battle between supreme exalts is extremely dangerous. Once one is affected, then only death awaits. This kid will die a long time ago. Exactly. He's overestimating his ability. How old does he look? How formidable could his cultivation be? Lu Ming's flight towards the swamp caused a wave of discussion. Lu Ming heard these discussions clearly, but Lu Ming couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them. He flew forward by himself and vanished in the blink of an eye. But then again, it's rare to see so many supreme exalts fighting. Wouldn't it be a pity to miss it just like that? That's true. Could it be that you want to go in and watch? That's too dangerous. We'll hide in the distance and watch. If the situation isn't right, then we'll retreat right away. There shouldn't be any problems. Someone spoke and revealed an expression of desire. A battle between supreme exalts was rare. Especially when many supreme exalts were fighting, it was extremely beneficial to some 9th level spirit god realm cultivators, and especially perfection stage spirit god realm cultivators. Perhaps watching supreme exalts utilize the embryonic form of domains would arouse inspiration and allow some perfection stage spirit god realm cultivators to comprehend the embryonic form of domains more quickly and step into the exalt realm. These words caused many people to reveal expressions of desire. Let's go. It should be fine if we watch from afar. That kid from before probably had the same thought. Someone spoke, and then he flew towards the swamp. Since there was a first, there was a second. After that, many people flew towards the swamp. Some 8th level, 9th level, and perfection stage spirit god realm experts rushed towards the swamp. Of course, people with lower cultivations really didn't dare to enter the swamp because the gap between them was too great. If a battle were to occur, then they wouldn't even be able to flee. Lu Ming continued forward. All around him was a boundless swamp. However, along the way, from time to time, he would see traces left behind by great battles. Lu Ming followed these traces and chased all the way. An hour later, several figures appeared in the void ahead. There were 3 of them. One was an old man, and the other was a middle-aged man. All of them had powerful auras. They were actually all Supreme Being level experts. However, these 3 people were standing around a young man, protecting him in the middle. It was obvious that this young man was their leader, only at the 3rd level of the spirit god realm. With a sweep of his spiritual sense, Lu Ming discovered that this young man was only at the 3rd level of the spirit god realm. It could be said that his cultivation was very low, and Lu Ming didn't take him seriously at all. However, This young man's identity was obviously very unusual, and he had several supreme beings guarding him. The other party also saw Lu Ming. That young man glanced coldly at Lu Ming. "Humph! You overestimate yourself. You actually dared to chase me all the way here. You're really courting death." The young man snorted with a disdainful sneer on his face. Swoosh! At this moment, a figure flew over from afar. It was a white-haired old man, and he was also a Supreme Being level expert. The white-haired old man came to the young man's side and bowed. "Young master, we found out that 100 Poison Supremacy is hiding in the dark swamp ahead. He used the poisonous gas of the dark swamp to set up a poisonous gas formation." "Humph! Does 100 Poison Supremacy think that he can stop us with a mere poisonous gas? How naive! Let's attack together and break open the poisonous gas formation and kill 100 Poison Supremacy." The young man gave the order and led a few Nine Heavens Supremes forward. They didn't even look at Lu Ming, completely ignoring Lu Ming. In their opinion, Lu Ming was just a person who came in to watch the show out of curiosity. He posed no threat to them and could be completely ignored. Soon, a dull rumbling sound came from ahead. Obviously, someone had attacked. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. He stepped out and flew towards the source of the sound. At this moment, a large group of people appeared behind Lu Ming. They were all 8th-layer, 9th-layer, and even perfect stage spirit god experts. They were all here. There are fluctuations of a great battle ahead. It must be a supreme being. "Let's move forward carefully and watch from afar," someone suggested. Everyone nodded and headed towards the source of the sound. Soon, Lu Ming arrived at his destination. In front of him was a dark swamp. Dense, black, poisonous gas floated above the swamp. It looked extremely terrifying. Within the black, poisonous gas, there were inscriptions flickering. Various colorful poisonous gases spread out and combined with the black poisonous gas to display an even greater power. The young man was standing in the void. Beside him were 2 supreme beings guarding. In front of him, there were 3 supreme beings attacking the black mist continuously. The terrifying power caused the black mist to tumble, but it couldn't be broken in a short time. "Humph! 100 Poison Supremacy's poisonous gas formation is quite powerful. You two attack together and break the formation." The young man ordered the 2 supreme beings beside him. "Master, we can't do that. This place is too dangerous. Let's leave. If anything happens to you, we won't be able to explain it to the commander." One of the supreme beings shook his head. The Godly Ruins continent was too vast. The Southern Sacred Palace ruled over a large area in the southern part of the Godly Ruins continent, but it was difficult for them to control everything. Therefore, the Southern Sacred Palace would deploy a few commanders to lead the army and guard the various areas. The young man's father was the commander of the Southern Sacred Palace, guarding the coastal area. He had a high position and an unfathomable cultivation. There were many experts under his command. This time he had brought a total of 5 supreme beings for the pure spirit body. It was a huge investment. "Who dares to touch me in this coastal area? Don't worry. Go and help me break the poisonous gas formation of 100 Poison Supremacy," the young man ordered. His tone was filled with confidence, but the 2 supreme beings were still hesitating. Whoosh! Whoosh! At that instant, the space rippled and 2 figures appeared not far away. The auras of the 2 figures were extremely strong, indicating that they were both supreme beings. The young man was overjoyed as he said, "I'm the son of the ocean-suppressing great general, Haitian. 100 Poison Supremacy is hiding in the poisonous gas formation. If you help me break the formation, I'll reward you handsomely." The son of the ocean-suppressing great general? The faces of the 2 supreme beings changed slightly, revealing a hint of fear. But it was only a hint. One of them said, "We can work together. But if there's a map of the pure spirit body later, we'll compete for it with our own strength." Are you trying to negotiate with me? Hai Tian's face turned cold. Of course, even though you're the son of the ocean-suppressing great general. We're also from the southern sacred palace. The ocean-suppressing great general won't be able to suppress us. One of the supreme beings said with a hollow laugh. They were both supreme beings with extraordinary backgrounds. Even though they were slightly intimidated by Hai Tian, they were not afraid of him. Chapter 1280. In this coastal area, his father was the overlord, and not many people dared to not give him face. But this time, the pure spiritual body had attracted many experts, and some of them were from the southern god palace. They were not afraid of the sea-suppressing marshal. Hai Tian rolled his eyes and pondered for a while, then said, "All right, you guys can attack together. After breaking the poison array, we will fight for the pure spiritual body's map with our own abilities." He had brought 5 supreme beings with him, and he was confident that he could suppress the crowd. "Haha, count me in. Count me in." At this moment, a few more voices sounded and a few figures appeared. Each of them had a terrifying aura, and they were all supreme beings. Lu Ming stood not far away, and 1,000 miles behind him. Those perfected spiritual god, 9th level spiritual god, and 8th level spiritual god martial artists were watching from afar. So many supreme beings. I wonder how many supreme beings have been attracted this time. There are more than 10 in front of us, and there are definitely more. With so many supreme beings, 100 poison supremacy will definitely not be able to keep his map. Some people were talking among themselves, and they looked ahead excitedly. Boom! 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 The supreme beings that came later burst out, and their terrifying auras soared into the sky, stirring up a huge hole in the sky, and it was extremely terrifying. Bright light shone out, and all kinds of terrifying attacks burst out, blasting towards the poison array. Rumble! Under the attacks of the supreme beings, the sky was shattered like tofu, and all kinds of attacks, along with spatial storms, fell towards the poison array. With so many supreme beings attacking together, they wanted to break the poison array with strong means. Sizzle, the poison gas of the poison array was extremely terrifying, and when it came in contact with those attacks, it made sizzling sounds, as if it was corroding those attacks. However, although the poison array was strong, there were 8 supreme beings attacking together. The power of 8 supreme beings attacking together was too shocking, and it could destroy heaven and earth. Although the poison array was strong, it could not withstand such a powerful attack. Whoosh! The poison gas tumbled, and it was annihilated by the terrifying attacks, turning into nothingness. The various colors of the poison gas in front of them slowly faded, and they were slowly annihilated. Then, some inscriptions, under the terrifying power, crumbled one by one. As the inscriptions crumbled, the array collapsed even faster, and the poison gas dissipated even faster. The poison array was about to be broken. Whoosh! Suddenly, a figure shrouded in black poison gas flew out from the poison gas formation and into the distance. 100 Poisons Prime. It's 100 Poisons Prime. Stop him! Hai Tian shouted. Whoosh! 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 With a flicker of their figures, the 8 Supremes executed their movement techniques and chased after 100 Poisons Supremacy. All sorts of attacks were launched at him. 100 Poisons Supremacy was helpless and could only try his best to dodge. As a result, his speed was greatly reduced, and he was surrounded by 8 Supremacies. Baidu, hand over the map of the pure spirit body. Otherwise, you won't be able to escape death today. Hai Tian shouted as he rushed over with the 2 supreme beings beside him. Ha ha ha, what a joke! Why should I give it to you? I paid a great price to obtain the map of the pure spirit body, so why should I give it to you? 100 Poisons, Sovereign, laughed maniacally. Humph, if you don't give it to me today, you'll die. Hai Tian sneered. Humph, you're just a piece of trash. If you didn't rely on your powerful father, I could kill you with a single breath. 100 Poisons, Supremacy, glanced at Hai Tian in disdain. You're courting death, Attack! Kill this man! Hai Tian's face flushed red as he roared. Hai Tian's talent was average, and he had only awakened an 8th grade High God Realm bloodline. He was far from the top geniuses, and he wasn't even qualified to participate in the Heavenly Divinity Sect's disciple selection. This was his sore point. He was proud and arrogant, and he hated it the most when people said that his talent was inferior to others. If they said that, they would die. 100 Poison Supremacy dared to call him a piece of trash, which violated his taboo. The 3 supreme beings that obeyed Hai Tian's orders instantly attacked 100 Poison Supremacy. 3 terrifying attacks enveloped 100 Poison's Supremacy. 100 Poison's Supremacy's face revealed a hint of ruthlessness as he chopped off one of his arms. As soon as the arm fell, it turned into a 7-colored poisonous gas that filled the area. Not good. The faces of the supreme beings turned green when they were hit by the poisonous gas. The other supreme beings also retreated. 100 Poison's Supremacy wanted to take this opportunity to break out of the encirclement. Attack! Don't let him escape attack! Hai Tian roared. The supreme beings that obeyed Hai Tian's orders ignored the poisonous gas and attacked 100 Poison's Supremacy with all their might. Meanwhile, the other supreme beings reacted and attacked too. Bang! 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 A great explosion took place between the heavens and earth as the supreme beings exchanged blows. However, 100 Poison Supremacy was alone. Thus, there was no way he could escape. In just a few moves, he was severely injured and vomited mouthfuls of blood. Here's the map of the pure spirit body. In the end, 100 Poison Supremacy had no choice but to take off his storage ring and toss it to one of the supreme beings. This supreme being was not Hai Tian's subordinate. He was overjoyed when he saw the storage ring. He immediately grabbed it and backed away. Hand it over. You're asking for it. The other supreme beings roared as they ignored 100 Poison Supremacy and charged toward the supreme being. 100 Poison's Supremacy backed away as his body was engulfed in poisonous gas, trying his best to heal his injuries. However, he did not leave immediately. It was obvious that he was unwilling to hand over the map and was waiting for an opportunity. How dare you steal it from me? I'll kill whoever tries to steal it from me. Hai Tian let out a roar. The 8 supreme beings were engaged in an intense battle, causing terrifying gusts of wind to sweep in all directions. 100 Poison's Supremacy's storage ring was taken by one person, then another. No one was allowed to monopolize it, as the one who obtained it would be attacked from all sides. I would like to see what the map looks like, Lu Ming murmured as he stepped forward toward the battlefield of the supreme beings. That kid, what is he trying to do? Why is he walking forward? He's courting death. Is he trying to compete for the map too? What a joke. He's overestimating himself. In the distance, the spectators were startled at first, before they began to laugh coldly. Hai Tian was slightly startled too, before he wore a ferocious expression as he said, Kid, you're courting death. Kill him. At the edge of Hai Tian, a supreme being nodded and waved his hand, unleashing a saber glow toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming glanced at Hai Tian calmly, before he suddenly accelerated and dodged the saber glow, charging toward the battlefield of the supreme beings. Die. On the battlefield, a supreme being who obeyed Hai Tian threw a punch at Lu Ming. Piss off. Lu Ming grunted and threw a punch at his opponent. Haha, this kid dares to exchange blows with a supreme being, someone sneered, but before he could finish, he was stunned. Chapter 1281. Boom! The 2 fists collided. In this punch, Lu Ming unleashed the power of 9 dragons, which contained 5 types of wills. The hell, suppressing heaven's skill, was terrifyingly powerful. When the 2 fists collided, the space directly exploded, and the surrounding space spread out in all directions like a spider web. A terrifying force shot out, and then a figure trembled, stepping on the void and retreating wildly, causing the space to tremble violently. To everyone's surprise, This figure was not Lu Ming, but the supreme martial artist, a burly supreme martial artist. And Lu Ming's figure did not move at all. Everyone was stunned, dumbfounded, and somewhat in disbelief. Even the supreme beings who were fighting were stunned and stopped fighting. A young man who looked less than 30 years old actually repelled a supreme being with one punch. How was this possible? Who was this person? Damn it, kill! The supreme being who was repelled reacted and let out an angry roar. He, a supreme being, was actually repelled by a young man with one punch. He felt that he had lost a lot of face. At this time, he no longer cared about snatching the map. He wanted to kill Lu Ming to restore his reputation. 2 pairs of gloves appeared on top of his head. This was his bloodline, a level 6 divine bloodline. The gloves were on his palms, and he punched continuously. The power of his punches increased by several times. The fist force, as heavy as a mountain, drowned Lu Ming. Kill. True essence boiled, and the power of 9 dragons made Lu Ming's strength soar. He punched continuously with both fists and exchanged blows with his opponent. Bang, bang, bang. After more than a dozen punches, Lu Ming had the upper hand and suppressed his opponent. In the distance, the martial artists who were watching the battle were dumbfounded, and they were completely speechless. Previously, they thought that Lu Ming dared to come here because he was overestimating himself and was courting death. Or perhaps Lu Ming was just like them and wanted to watch from afar. But later, Lu Ming actually rushed to the battlefield. They thought that Lu Ming was courting death and was doomed. However, the result was far beyond their expectations. The battle prowess that Lu Ming displayed nearly blinded their eyes. Lu Ming was actually able to fight against a supreme being. Moreover, he was able to suppress a supreme being. This was simply a fantasy. Time to end this, Lu Ming muttered. Above his head, the 3rd bloodline appeared. A gush of energy gushed out from the 3rd bloodline and entered Lu Ming's body. After borrowing the power of the 3rd bloodline, Lu Ming's strength increased greatly. Boom! With one punch, the other party retreated continuously. With another punch, there was a cracking sound, and the sound of bones breaking could be heard from the other party's fist. The bones in his hand had been broken by Lu Ming's punch. Whoosh! The 3rd bloodline turned into a battle sword, tearing through the void, hacking towards the other party. The other party cried out miserably, one of his arms severed by the blood sword. The other party retreated frantically, his face filled with fear. The rest of the 9 Heaven Supremes, including Hai Tian, were astounded. A supreme being was injured just like that. What kind of battle prowess was this? Give me the map. Lu Ming targeted one of the supreme beings and charged towards him. The 100 Poisons Supreme Being's storage ring fell into his hands. Seeing Lu Ming charging towards him, the supreme being's expression changed greatly, and he retreated rapidly. You can't escape. Lu Ming stepped out, charging towards the other party. Boom! Lu Ming's palm struck out, and a ferocious spatial crack appeared in the void. A chaotic spatial storm surged towards the other party. The supreme being tried his best to resist, but he was still forced back. Lu Ming's current strength was too strong, far surpassing the average supreme beings. Attack together. This person is too strong. The supreme being roared. Yes, attack together. All of you attack. Kill this person first. Then fight for the pure spirit body's map. Hai Tian also shouted. He looked at Lu Ming with eyes full of crazy jealousy and hatred. He was jealous of Lu Ming's talent. He looked younger than him, but his cultivation and battle prowess were so terrifying. He was so jealous that he wanted to go crazy. He wanted to destroy Lu Ming and make such a genius disappear from the world. Young master! On the edge of Hai Tian, the 2 supreme beings were still hesitating. Attack! I order you to attack and kill this person together! Hai Tian roared angrily. The 2 supreme beings had no choice but to attack Lu Ming together. As for the other supreme beings, they also attacked Lu Ming together. Lu Ming's battle prowess was too strong, and they felt threatened. If Lu Ming got the pure spirit body's map, it would be difficult for them to get it. Therefore, they planned to get rid of Lu Ming first. 10 supreme martial artists attacked at the same time, charging toward Lu Ming. Their power was extremely terrifying. Roar! A dragon roar shook the 9 heavens, and the 9 dragons' bloodline appeared. Lu Ming performed bloodline fusion, turning into 9 dragons. The power of devouring erupted, enveloping all the supreme beings. Then, the dragon claws continuously stepped out. Bang! Bang! 2 supreme beings were hit by the dragon claws, coughing up blood and retreating. Whoosh! The divine dragon swung its tail, and a supreme being subordinate of Haitian also vomited blood and was sent flying. Clang! The lightning cauldron appeared above the 9 dragons, and thousands of lightning filled the air, enveloping the remaining supreme beings. Boom! 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 A series of explosions sounded, and all the attacks of the supreme beings were blocked. Hiss! In the distance, there was a series of gasps, and the cold air almost made their lungs explode. It was too shocking. 10 supreme beings joined forces to attack a young man. But in the end, not only were they blocked by the young man, some of them were even injured. How was this possible? He is Lu Ming of the Divine Wilderness Continent, the #1 genius of the Divine Ruins Continent. Suddenly, a supreme being shouted. This supreme being had gone to watch the selection of the Yuan Lu sect, and he recognized Lu Ming. What? He is Lu Ming? The most powerful genius of the younger generation in the Divine Ruins Continent? Didn't he return to the Divine Ruins Continent? Why is he still here? Gosh, it's him. No wonder he is so terrifying. The scene was in an uproar. By now, Lu Ming's name had already spread across the Divine Ruins Continent. Most of the people knew that the Divine Wilderness Continent had emerged as a new force in the selection of the Yuan Lu sect's disciples. The most terrifying one was a young man called Lu Ming, who had defeated the other geniuses and won the first place. No one in the younger generation could defeat him. Even if he is the most powerful genius of the younger generation, his combat strength is terrifying enough. Someone exclaimed. It was too shocking to be able to remain unscathed under the attacks of 10 supreme beings. Damn it, it's him. Hai Tian gritted his teeth in hatred. Leave it to me, Zhu Long said indifferently. He twisted his body and charged towards the supreme being who was holding 100 Poison's sovereign storage ring. That supreme being wanted to resist, but after being beaten up by Lu Ming, he no longer dared to resist and threw the storage ring to Lu Ming, who caught it. Lu Ming caught the storage ring, and with a thought, a rolled-up map appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Chapter 1282. Because the feeling this map gave him was almost exactly the same as the map he had obtained from the bandit. The material, texture, and weight were all the same. Lu Ming opened the map and looked at it. Lu Ming was even more stunned. The content of the map was exactly the same as the one he had obtained. There were no changes. There are actually 2 maps. Strange. Lu Ming frowned. Generally speaking, there would only be one such precious map. How could there be 2? Could it be fake? Lu Ming guessed in his heart. Lu Ming, I am the son of the sea-suppressing marshal. I advise you to hand over the map to avoid causing trouble for yourself. Not far away, Haitian spoke as he stared coldly at Lu Ming. So what if Lu Ming's talent was strong? He was just a young man from the Divine Wilderness Continent. In the coastal area of the Divine Ruins Continent, he still had to listen to him obediently. Otherwise, as long as he sent out an emperor, he could easily kill Lu Ming. No matter how talented he was just an ordinary martial artist if he didn't grow up. The 5 supreme beings under Haitian surrounded Lu Ming and stared at him covetously. The other supreme beings also stared at the map in Lu Ming's hand with fiery eyes, wishing they could take it for themselves. There really was a map. It seemed that the matter of the pure spirit body was true. The temptation of a pure spirit body was too strong for them. Most of them had almost stopped at the Supreme Being realm for their entire lives. It was too difficult to take another step forward and break through to the Emperor realm. But with a pure spirit body, there was hope. As long as they cultivated a pure spiritual body, on the basis of a pure spiritual body, they might be able to condense a real spiritual body and become a ruler. The temptation of becoming an emperor who could live for 10 to 20,000 years and dominate the world was too strong. Knowing that Lu Ming was strong, they wouldn't give up so easily. Lu Ming's lips curled into an inexplicable smile. He looked at Hai Tian and said, "Do you want the map?" "Sure, here you go." With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming tossed the map to another paragon, not the one who took orders from Hai Tian. Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect Lu Ming to hand over the map so easily. Looks like Lu Ming is still afraid of Hai Tian. Everyone had the same thought. Hai Tian sneered. He also thought that Lu Ming was afraid of him. So what if he's talented? If you don't have a backer, won't you still have to listen to me? Hai Tian sneered. Although he knew that Lu Ming had been accepted as a disciple by the Yuanlu's Dragon God Valley, he wasn't afraid since Lu Ming hadn't officially joined the Dragon God Valley yet. He actually didn't give me the map directly. When my big brother arrives, I'll definitely teach him a lesson. Hai Tian thought. Lu Ming threw out the map, causing another chaotic battle. As for Lu Ming, he transformed into his human form and took a step forward, suddenly appearing beside Hai Tian. Hai Tian's expression changed slightly as he scolded, "Lu Ming, what are you doing?" "Nothing. It's just that your face pisses me off. Moreover, you wanted to kill me before. I'm a very vengeful person," Lu Ming said with a faint smile. You dare?" Hai Tian's expression changed drastically. Slap. Lu Ming swung his hand and slapped Hai Tian's face. Hai Tian spun dozens of times. One side of his face was swollen. He was completely dumbfounded. Lu Ming dared to hit him? Didn't Lu Ming hand over the map because he was afraid of him? How dare he hit him now? Hai Tian felt that his brain couldn't process the situation. "Young master." A few supreme martial artists under Hai Tian's command roared angrily and pounced on Lu Ming. "Don't worry, I won't kill you." Lu Ming smiled and took a step forward. His figure disappeared in the blink of an eye. The reason why Lu Ming didn't kill Hai Tian wasn't because he was afraid of the forces behind him, but because he wanted to use them to decipher the map and find the pure spirit body. The map was very complicated. The more people there were, the higher the chance of deciphering it. After Lu Ming left, Hai Tian finally reacted. He covered one side of his face and screamed crazily, "Ah, damn it, kill! Kill him, Lu Ming, you must kill him!" He screamed hysterically, but Lu Ming couldn't hear him anymore. He walked out of the swamp and soon came out of the endless swamp. That guy came out. As soon as Lu Ming came out of the swamp, many eyes looked at him. I knew he would come out. He must have seen the scene of the supreme martial artists fighting inside. It's too shocking, so he ran out in fear. Yes, that must be it. He's just a clown, why bother with him? Voices sounded one after another. Some of them were full of disdain. Lu Ming didn't bother to pay attention to them. He directly left and returned to the city. Not long after Lu Ming left, a group of people came out. They were the group of people who were watching the battle. How was it? How was the battle inside? Did the supreme martial artists fight? Is there any news of the pure spirit body? Many people began to ask. The map with the pure spirit body has appeared. A battle between the supreme martial artists, an expert at the perfected stage of the spirit god realm, explained. When he mentioned that the young man from before was Lu Ming and that Lu Ming had unleashed his prowess and fought against the 10 supreme beings, there was complete silence. You mean? That young man is the most powerful young man, Lu Ming? And he fought against the 10 supreme martial artists, seized the map, and then took the initiative to hand it over in the end? Someone asked in disbelief. That's right. The previous person nodded. The people outside the swamp were dumbfounded. Some of their faces were flushed red from shame. Just now, they were laughing at Lu Ming, saying that Lu Ming was scared. But in fact, Lu Ming was able to fight against the 10 supreme martial artists alone and seize the map from them. His combat strength was beyond imagination. Lu Ming ignored them just now because he didn't care about them. In Lu Ming's eyes, they were the real clowns. Thinking of this, their faces turned red. Not long after, Hai Tian and the others also appeared. In this battle, Hai Tian's side was stronger. He brought a total of 5 supreme martial artists with him, and one of them even awakened a 7th-level divine bloodline. He was stronger than ordinary supreme martial artists. The 5 of them joined forces and seized the map. After Hai Tian seized the map, he disappeared with the experts. Many people guessed that they were studying the map. Many experts secretly sent people to keep an eye on Hai Tian and the others because as long as Hai Tian and the others studied something, they would be able to find some clues. Lu Ming was also studying the map. Of course, he called Dandan along. Dandan was an old antique who was proficient in all kinds of inscriptions. It was best to call Dandan along to study this kind of map. The 2 of them studied the map for 2 days. All the lines on this map converge at the end and lead to a certain place. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the nearby geographical location. Otherwise, I would be able to find the destination according to the corresponding geographical location. Dandan said slowly as he walked around the map with his claws behind his back. Oh, then I'll go by a few maps of the Godly Ruins continent. Lu Ming said, Sai, even if you compare it with the map, it won't be that easy to find. After all, the map's description won't be that detailed. Chapter 1283. Even so, Lu Ming still went to buy a few maps, including maps of the Godly Ruins continent and the ocean, and put them together to study. Just as Lu Ming and the others were studying, a black-robed old man sat cross-legged in a secret room in the city. The black-robed old man's face was full of wrinkles, and his face was ferocious. No, there are too few maps. They won't be able to study it in a short time. I don't have time to continue waiting, so I might as well release a large number of maps. With so many people, someone will definitely be able to find it. I must find the cultivation method of the pure spirit body. It's my only hope. A cold voice came out of the black-robed old man's mouth. Then, a large number of maps appeared in the black-robed old man's hand. He casually took out a map and opened it. It was exactly the same as the one Lu Ming had obtained, and it was all about the pure spirit body. There were not just 1 or 2 maps, but many of them, and they were all duplicated by the black-robed old man. A day later, another map of the pure spirit body appeared, and it caused an intense competition. In the end, it was snatched away by a supreme being. But later, more and more maps of the pure spirit body appeared. In the beginning, the competition was still very intense, and supreme beings would make a move whenever a map appeared. But later, it seemed that all the supreme beings had a map, and only spirit god realm experts made a move. Later on, more and more maps appeared, and there were a few hundred maps. Could the maps be fake? Such a situation made many people speculate. Perhaps it was true. Someone had obtained a map first, but he couldn't study it, so he threw out so many duplicated maps in order to borrow the strength of others to find the cultivation method of the pure spirit body. Then, such words were thrown out, and many people were skeptical. But no one would give up easily. After all, the pure spirit body was too tempting. Even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance, no one would give up. Many people held the maps and studied them carefully. Later on, some people even gathered together and began to study. A few days later, someone indeed made some progress and flew towards the sea. The location indicated on the map should be overseas. Dandan also came to a conclusion. For a time, countless people gathered together and flew towards the sea. Whoosh! The sea breeze whistled and blew. When they arrived at the seaside, they saw the boundless sea. Swoosh! 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 One figure after another rode the wind and broke the waves, flying toward the sea. There were a few individuals whose auras were especially powerful, terrifying to the extreme. Those were Supreme Being level experts. Look, that's Haitian. The Sea Conqueror has sent even more experts. Someone looked up at the sky. Everyone saw that there were a total of 9 people at the edge of the sea. Each and every one of them had a terrifying and powerful aura. They were all Supremes. However, this time, Haitian wasn't in charge. Haitian was obediently following behind a man in his 40s with a respectful expression. That's Haitian's elder brother, Haiyu. He's a terrifying existence. It's said that Haiyu has awakened a level 9 divine bloodline. He's already over 40 years old and can step into the martial emperor realm at any time. His combat strength is terrifying. Haiyu has also come out. With his combat strength, he can easily kill an ordinary supreme being. A few people were discussing among themselves. When Haiyu was mentioned, they all felt great fear. A 9th grade divine bloodline sovereign. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. A 9th grade divine bloodline sovereign was absolutely terrifying. Such a person would definitely step into the martial emperor realm. His combat strength couldn't be measured by common sense. If Haiyu wasn't over 30 years old, he could participate in the heavenly divinity sect's selection of disciples. Such a genius combat strength could be imagined after he became a supreme being. Even if Lu Ming were to face him now, he might not have the confidence to win. Haiyu, Haitian, and the others flew toward the sea. Following that, more people flew toward the sea. Lu Ming blended into the crowd and flew together. After flying for a full day, they didn't know how far they had traveled. A small island appeared in front of them. Could it be on this small island? Many people's eyes lit up. No, this small island is only the first location. It's a guiding point, someone said. They found the answer based on the map and the position of the stars in the sky. This small island wasn't the final location. It pointed to the next location. Some people took out the map and studied it together. In the end, they found the right path and continued to fly toward the sea. A day later, they found the second island. Unfortunately, after studying it, it was still not the final destination. It was also a guiding point. If they found this island, they could find the next location. Everyone studied and calculated together. Then they continued to fly. Another day later, they arrived at the third island. This island was still not the final destination. However, when they arrived here, they encountered a problem. They found a ruin on this island. It was full of abandoned stone pillars. Some people guessed that this was the key to studying the map, but it seemed that something was missing. They couldn't figure out the final route. If something is really missing, these ruins should give us a hint. Dandin frowned and thought seriously. Everyone studied it for a day, but found nothing. These ruins are somewhat similar to the stone plate passed down in my family. At that moment, an old man walked to the ruins and took out a stone plate. Buzz! The stone plate vibrated and emitted light. At the same time, the ruins also vibrated and emitted a dazzling light. The ruins and the stone plate resonated with each other. There's a reaction. Someone exclaimed, "Look, some routes have appeared." Everyone saw that the stone plate and the ruins were resonating with each other. In the dazzling light, some lines were condensed. These lines seemed to be some routes. Everyone quickly combined it with the route on the map and deduced. "Got it, I found the route." Someone shouted excitedly. In the end, everyone worked together and found the next route. They continued to fly toward the sea. Sure enough, I made the right choice. Relying on myself, I can only reach this far in the end. In the crowd, an old man in a black robe revealed an excited expression. Those maps were leaked by this old man. He had obtained the maps a long time ago. After decades of research, he could only find the third island. There was no clue beyond that. Therefore, he copied a large number of maps, hoping to borrow the strength of others to find the method of the pure spirit body. Sure enough, this method worked. In just a few days, The results were greater than his decades of research. Then they found the fourth island, then the fifth island. 10 days later, they found a total of 9 islands. These 9 islands seemed to have a mysterious connection. They had to find the previous one to find the next one. However, the 9th island seemed to be the final destination. Everyone studied and found that the 9th island was the last island. The next step would be the location of the pure spirit body. Chapter 1284. Everyone studied carefully and finally found that the final destination was at the bottom of the sea, in a secret place at the bottom of the sea. Plop, plop. Many experts jumped into the sea and headed in the direction of the pure spirit body according to the map. Lu Ming also jumped into the sea. This was the outer sea, and the water was very deep. Everyone kept diving 100 meters, 1,000 meters, and finally they reached a depth of more than 100,000 meters. At this depth, the pressure of the seawater had reached a terrifying level. Even a high-grade spirit weapon would be crushed into a ball under such water pressure. The terrifying pressure constantly pressed on Lu Ming. Lu Ming circulated his Zhan Yuan to protect his body, and at the same time, he circulated the concept of water. A mysterious aura circulated around his body, and the water automatically separated and couldn't get close to Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked relaxed, but the others weren't. Puff! A first-level spirit god martial artist's body trembled, and his face turned pale. He spat out a mouthful of blood and didn't dare to continue diving. Instead, he quickly swam upstream. At this point, ordinary low-level spirit god martial artists would have a hard time resisting and would be crushed to death by the huge pressure. Although they were unwilling, they could only leave because they hadn't reached the bottom yet. They had to continue diving and didn't know how deep it would be. The surroundings were pitch black and there wasn't the slightest bit of light. However, those who could reach this place were all experts with strong eyesight. They could still see tens of thousands of meters away. Whoosh! Everyone continued diving and occasionally checked the map. Soon, they had reached a depth of more than 200,000 meters. The water pressure here was even more terrifying. Many people's Zhan Yuan protection creaked under pressure, as if it would collapse at any time. At this point, Lu Ming found an underground mountain range. However, because the rocks here were under the terrifying water pressure all year round, their hardness was shocking. They were harder than many strange metals outside, and 100 times harder than ordinary steel. It's under that valley. Dandin stood on Lu Ming's shoulder and pointed at an underwater valley below. Looking from afar, it was pitch black, as if it led to the abyss of hell. Lu Ming nodded and headed towards the valley. Obviously, the others had also noticed and were swimming towards the valley. The number of people who could reach this place was much smaller than before, but there were still about 1,000 people. 1,000 people, like 1,000 tiny fish, swam into the pitch-black valley. Whoosh! All of a sudden, the seawater churned. From a pitch-black cave at the edge of the valley, a colossal creature suddenly pounced out. It opened its bloody mouth and tried to swallow the experts. The berserk aura was frightening. "You're courting death!" Someone roared, and a sword chi slashed out at the huge monster. The attacker was a consummate spirit god expert. However, as they were in the deep sea, his strength was greatly suppressed. His sword chi slashed out and slashed at the mouth. The sharp teeth of the mouth bit the sword chi in half. Then a scarlet tongue rolled out and wrapped around the expert, pulling him into the mouth. Damn it! The expert in the consummate spirit god realm unleashed all kinds of terrifying attacks. However, they were more than 200,000 meters deep in the sea, and his strength was greatly suppressed. The monster that suddenly pounced out was only equivalent to a consummate spirit god. However, the monster's strength here was far above that of an ordinary consummate spirit god. The human expert in the consummate spirit god realm was no match for the monster at all. He was pulled into the mouth of the scarlet tongue and was bitten in half. Ah! The expert in the consummate spirit god realm let out a shrill scream. However, in the next moment, the scream stopped abruptly. He was bitten into pieces by the monster and swallowed into its stomach. What kind of monster is that? At this moment, everyone saw the monster's appearance clearly. Its body was like a python, but it also looked like an eel. It was very long, and its tail was still in a cave in the valley. Only the upper part of its tail was sticking out. Its body was covered in scales, and its eyes were blood red. It was extremely ferocious. Its mouth was chewing, and it seemed to be eating with relish. Its blood-red eyes stared at the others with greed. Whoosh! In the next moment, it pounced out again and opened its bloody mouth to bite the experts of the human race. "You're courting death!" At this moment, a supreme being shouted coldly and stepped out. With a wave of his hand, the embryonic form of a domain spread out and enveloped the monster. Chi-chi! The monster's scales made sizzling sounds when it was enveloped by the embryonic form of the domain. Die! The supreme being stepped out and appeared on top of the monster's head. He punched out and bombarded the monster's head. Bang! With a boom, the monster roared and retreated. Its head caved in and blood flowed out, but it was not killed. So powerful! Many people's hearts trembled. This monster was too powerful. Judging from its aura, it was only at the consummate spirit god realm. If it was outside, the attack of a supreme being was enough to kill a consummate spirit god. However, the monster was only injured here and was not killed. Obviously, this monster lived at the bottom of the sea all year round. In this place, the monster could unleash its strength while the strength of human warriors was suppressed. The human supreme being's face darkened when he did not kill the monster with one attack. A snow-white battle sword appeared in his hand, and he slashed out. A shocking sword light split the sea and slashed the monster's neck. Splat! Blood dyed the sea red, and the monster's head was chopped off. However, the monster was not dead for a while after its head was chopped off. Its lower body frantically retreated, trying to shrink back into the cave. However, it only retreated halfway before its vitality was extinguished and it became limp and motionless. There are marine monsters at the bottom of the sea. We have to be careful. Someone whispered and increased their vigilance. Once there were creatures at the bottom of the sea, they would definitely be dangerous and not simple. Everyone continued to dive. The valley was too deep. They dived for another 10,000 meters, but they still did not reach the bottom. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, the sea water surged and there was another boom around the valley. Hiss, hiss, hiss. At the same time, there was a shrill sound that made people's hair stand on end. Then, everyone was shocked to see dozens of behemoths on the walls of the valley pouncing towards them at the same time. Monster! It's that kind of monster! Someone screamed in horror. This behemoth that suddenly pounced out was exactly the same as the one that appeared before. Its body was as slender as a python. Its eyes were blood red and its mouth was wide open. Its body was covered with scales and it looked terrifying. There were dozens of them here, and each of them had a terrifying aura. Caught off guard, more than a dozen human warriors were bitten by the monster without any chance to fight back. The sharp teeth chewed them into pieces, and they died on the spot. An exceptionally huge monster pounced towards Hai Tian and the others. "You're courting death!" A supreme being roared at the edge of the sea, and a spear appeared in his hand. The spear broke through the seawater and fought with the monster. After 3 moves, the monster was nailed to the bottom of the sea. Chapter 1285. Splash! A monster targeted Lu Ming and bit at Lu Ming's head. The dragon power in Lu Ming's body burst out, and his left hand used the devouring power to envelop the monster. The fingers of his right hand lengthened and turned into dragon claws. Uft! Lu Ming grabbed the monster's head with his right hand and tore it off with all his might. Blood gushed out, but it was all devoured by Lu Ming's devouring power. What a rich blood essence, and the demonic power in it is even more astonishing. After devouring the monster's blood essence and demonic power, Lu Ming was secretly shocked. This monster was also a type of demonic beast, but the demonic power in its body was astonishing. The blood essence in its blood essence was also extremely rich, far surpassing that of ordinary human martial artists. However, Lu Ming's current cultivation had reached a bottleneck. After devouring and refining, it was not of much help to him. Kill! 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 Deep in the sea, a fierce battle broke out. Although the dozens of underwater monsters were powerful, they were still easily killed by the human race's supreme martial artist. In the end, dozens of humans died, but the dozens of monsters were killed one by one. Next, everyone continued to dive, but they were even more cautious. Sure enough, not long after, they were attacked again. It was a strange fish. Its body was not big, and it looked exactly like a stone. Even its aura was like a stone, as if it was lifeless. However, when Lu Ming and the others approached, the stone-like fish suddenly launched an attack. This fish was not particularly strong, but there were many of them, and they were highly poisonous. If a perfected spirit god was bitten by this fish, he would be severely poisoned and paralyzed, unable to fight back. In this battle, dozens of powerhouses died. In the end, they relied on the powerful strength of the Supremes to kill the stone-like fish. However, no one retreated. The temptation of a pure spirit body was too great. Since they had come this far, no one wanted to return empty-handed. Everyone continued to dive. In total, they had dived 300,000 meters into the sea. The water pressure here was simply unimaginable. Moreover, it was pitch black. With Lu Ming's vision, he could only see within 1,000 meters. The others might be able to see even closer. It's the end, someone said. Everyone relaxed. They had finally reached the bottom. Was the pure spirit body cultivation method here? Look, there's a crack. Suddenly, someone shouted. Everyone hurriedly gathered over, and sure enough, they found a crack. It seemed to be a spatial passage. This is a spatial tunnel. The cultivation method of the pure spirit body must be hidden inside. This thought appeared in everyone's mind, and their eyes couldn't help but become fiery. Just as someone was about to charge in, the seawater in the distance churned, and a furious roar rang out. How dare you invade my ancestral land? All of you must die. The loud roar was like a dragon's roar, rumbling through the rolling seawater. Then, everyone saw a large group of black behemoths rushing towards them. Demonic beasts, all of them were demonic beasts, and they were all marine demonic beasts. Lu Ming saw huge octopuses, ferocious sharks, and slender eels. The one in the lead was covered in black scales, had dragon horns, and had 4 claws under its belly. It was a flood dragon. It was a black flood dragon. Moreover, the flood dragon had a strong true dragon's aura. It obviously contained a rich true dragon's bloodline. The terrifying aura was enough to make people tremble even if they were far away. Supreme Being, that flood dragon, is a Supreme Being expert, and it contains 90% of the true dragon's bloodline. Lu Ming's pupils shrank slightly. A flood dragon with 90% of the true dragon's bloodline was absolutely terrifying. Behind the flood dragon, there were many marine demonic beasts with terrifying auras. Many of them were Supreme Being experts. Not good, retreat. Charge into the spatial tunnel. Many human experts screamed in horror and turned around to charge into the spatial tunnel. You're courting death. The flood dragon roared, and a black dragon claw stretched out. It grew rapidly and clawed at the human experts. Puff! Puff! In an instant, more than 10 high-level spiritual god experts were crushed by the dragon claw. Their bodies and souls were annihilated. Whoosh! The dragon claw didn't stop, and it went for a Supreme Being expert. That Supreme Being expert's face changed. A snow-white saber appeared in his hand, and the saber light was shocking. It broke through the seawater and slashed at the dragon claw. With a loud bang, the saber light shattered. That Supreme Being expert's body shook violently. His face paled, and he vomited blood as he was sent flying. The difference was too big. Even though they were both Supreme Being experts, the Flood Dragon was no match for the human experts. They were at the bottom of the sea, and the Flood Dragon had an advantage. Moreover, the Flood Dragon had 90% of the true dragon's bloodline, and it was the same as the human experts who had awakened a grade 9 high god realm bloodline. He was a genius among geniuses. At this time, some human experts had already charged into the spatial tunnel and disappeared. Kill them all. Seeing this, the Flood Dragon became even more furious. He roared again and again, and his dragon claw slashed out. Rip! Space was torn apart, and seawater flowed into the spatial crack and disappeared. A dragon claw grabbed at Hai Tian and the others. Protect the young master. At the edge of the sea, several supreme beings roared and attacked the black dragon claw together. Boom! 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 The terrifying attack evaporated more than 10,000 tons of seawater, creating a vacuum. Several supreme beings joined forces to block the black dragon claw. There are so many experts. Die! Hai Tian and the others attracted the attention of the black flood dragon. It stared coldly at Hai Tian and the others. It let out a dragon roar and pounced towards them. At the same time, several Supreme Being marine monsters followed the flood dragon and pounced towards Hai Tian and the others. The marine monsters had the advantage under the sea. Now that several Supreme Beings joined forces, their power was shocking. Hai Tian's face changed drastically, and he was extremely frightened. Boom! Boom! Several Supreme Beings joined forces, but they were still unable to stop the flood dragon and were sent flying. Big brother, save me! Hai Tian screamed in fear. Rip! Hai stepped out and appeared beside Hai Tian. He activated his embryonic domain, and a huge battle axe appeared in his hand. He swung the axe. Clang! The axe collided with the black flood dragon's claw, and a shocking force was released. The force formed a storm that swept out, and some of the weaker Supreme Beings could not stand steadily. Hai Yu was also in existence, who had awakened a level 9 divine bloodline. His battle strength was shocking, and he was not weaker than the flood dragon. Even at the bottom of the sea, he was not much weaker. When the two collided, the flood dragon and Hai Yu's bodies shook slightly, and they retreated a few steps. There's actually an expert like you, but this is the bottom of the sea. Stay here. The black flood dragon roared and attacked Hai Yu. Bring Hai Tian into the spatial tunnel. I'll block them. Hai Yu ordered the other Supreme Beings, and then used bloodline fusion to fight the flood dragon. Splash! Chapter 1286. They were more than 300,000 meters deep at the bottom of the sea. An ordinary spiritual god would probably be crushed to death by the seawater, not to mention stirring the seawater. However, the battle between Hai Yu and the Flood Dragon Supreme could actually stir the seawater within a radius of tens of thousands of meters. It was obvious how terrifying their combat strength was. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged more than 10 moves. Is this the power of a 9th grade divine rank bloodline and a 90% divine beast bloodline? Their strength is indeed shocking. Lu Ming mixed in the crowd and casually fought with a demon beast. However, his gaze was fixed on the battle between Hai Yu and the Flood Dragon Supreme. Lu Ming was rather solemn at the combat power of the duo. Lu Ming felt that even if he unleashed his full strength now, he would probably not be a match for Hai Yu or the Flood Dragon Supreme. The main reason was that his cultivation was too far away from theirs. If his cultivation broke through to the perfection stage of the spiritual god realm, he was confident that he could fight and even suppress them. But now he was still a little short. The gap between the 9th level of the spiritual god realm to the perfection stage of the spiritual god realm and the spirit god realm to the sovereign realm was getting bigger and bigger. It was too difficult to surmount. With Lu Ming's current combat strength, it was more than enough to deal with or even suppress those sovereigns who had awakened a 6th grade divine rank bloodline. However, they were only the most ordinary sovereigns. The higher their bloodline, the stronger their combat strength, and the more difficult it would be to deal with them. Let's go! After watching for a while, Lu Ming had a rough understanding of Haiyu and the Flood Dragon's supreme strength. Then, he casually killed a sea demon at the perfection stage of the spiritual god realm and followed the crowd into the spatial tunnel. The space changed. In the next moment, Lu Ming felt the pressure around him lighten, and the true yuan in his body circulated quickly. There's no seawater here, nor is there any pressure from the seawater. This was Lu Ming's first reaction. Then Lu Ming looked around. At this moment he was standing in the void. He could clearly see that there was seawater all around him, but it was separated by a layer of transparent material that kept the seawater outside. It was the same in all directions. There seemed to be a layer of restriction that kept the seawater out. There was a spatial rift in the sky. It was the spatial tunnel. Lu Ming and the others had come in through that spatial tunnel. That is an ancient city. Then Lu Ming looked ahead. This area was completely occupied by a vast ancient city. An ancient city stood in front of them. It was filled with an ancient aura, as if it had crossed over from the ancient era. The ancient city was vast. At a glance, one could see that it stretched for hundreds of thousands of li. To think that there was such an ancient city hidden at a depth of more than 300,000 meters under the sea. At this moment, some people were already flying towards the ancient city. Clearly, this ancient city was very likely their final destination. The pure spirit body technique was very likely to be hidden in this ancient city. However, Lu Ming saw a strange scene. When some people flew above the ancient city, it was as if they could not fly, or they were affected by a powerful gravitational force. They could not stay in the air and quickly descended into the ancient city. It seems like you can't fly in this ancient city. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Suddenly, the space around Lu Ming trembled, and several figures appeared. Haiyu, one of them was Haiyu. Most of the remaining ones were sea monsters, such as the Flood Dragon Sovereign. Kill! The moment the Flood Dragon Sovereign appeared, he wanted to kill Haiyu. However, Haiyu was not in the mood to fight. He took a step forward and flew towards the ancient city. Lu Ming did not hesitate either. He used his movement technique and flew towards the ancient city. Kill all these humans! The Flood Dragon Sovereign ordered and chased after the ancient city with the sea monsters. When Lu Ming flew above the ancient city, there was indeed an extremely powerful gravitational force. Even with Lu Ming's cultivation, it was difficult for him to maintain flight. He could not help but fall below the ancient city. Lu Ming landed on a street in the ancient city. Haiyu and the others landed on another street. As soon as he landed on the street, Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. At this moment, he felt the bloodline of the prison-suppressing monument trembling slightly. Lu Ming realized that when he stepped on the ground, he seemed to be able to fuse with the earth with the help of the bloodline of the prison-suppressing monument. At this moment, he felt that the earth concept seemed to be restless, as if it could break through at any time. This ancient city is 300,000 meters below the sea. It's close to the earth's core. When I step on the ground here, it resonates with the earth. I can clearly sense the earth concept. Touch! Lu Ming thought in his heart and guessed the general reason. Perhaps this is an opportunity for me to break through to the peak of the 4th level of the earth concept. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with anticipation. If his earth concept broke through to the peak of the 4th level, Lu Ming could continue to devour and refine origin stones and break through to the peak of the spirit god realm. Then the next step would be to comprehend the embryonic form of the domain and break through to the sovereign realm. Boom! Boom! Not far away, there was a rumbling sound. It was obvious that someone was fighting. Let's go. Even if there is a pure spiritual body cultivation technique, it must be in the depths of the ancient city. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He took a step forward and rushed towards the depths of the ancient city. Suddenly, A shrill scream came from in front of Lu Ming. Could it be that someone is killing each other? Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and continued to move forward. Not long after, another shrill scream rang out. The scream contained despair and terror, and it caused one's entire body to go cold. It doesn't sound like the scream of someone killing each other. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but be careful. He also slowed down his speed. Hoo-hoo! Suddenly, Lu Ming felt a chilly wind blowing on his body, making his hair stand on end. Be careful, Dandan suddenly warned. At the same time, Lu Ming also felt a cold aura approaching him from behind. Lu Ming suddenly turned around and threw out a punch. Boom! The fist energy pierced through the space, and a pitch-black space tunnel appeared. However, there was nothing. Lu Ming didn't see anything or any living thing. However, at this moment, Lu Ming felt a cold aura on his neck that was getting closer to him. Swoosh! Lu Ming's palm was like a blade. He slashed out horizontally and swept in all directions. However, when his palm swept across, it was still empty. There was nothing. What the hell is this? Dandan, did you notice? Lu Ming frowned and looked around carefully, but he still found nothing. I didn't notice it either, Lu Ming. This place is very strange. It should be the residence of a powerful existence, Dandan said. You don't have to tell me that. Lu Ming curled his lips. To be able to move an ancient city to a place 300,000 meters deep under the sea, even an ordinary emperor couldn't do it. Only a terrifying existence could do it. How could the residents of such a powerhouse be ordinary? At this moment, another scream came from ahead. It was extremely shrill. Who cares what it is? Since it doesn't dare to appear, I'll continue forward. Lu Ming's eyes were bright. The dragon power in his body erupted. He was ready to fight at any time and stepped forward. In the ancient city, screams could be heard from time to time. What the hell is this? Get out here. Chapter 1287. But there was nothing. Some of the weaker cultivators were trembling in fear, feeling like they were going crazy. Whoosh, whoosh, gusts of cold wind blew in the ancient city. Trying to mystify us. Some of the Supreme Being experts snorted coldly. They covered their bodies with true essence and strode forward, passing through the streets. Lu Ming also strode forward. But strangely, Lu Ming did not see a single corpse along the way. Screams could be heard from time to time, but not a single corpse could be seen. Lu Ming could not help but look at the mansions and palaces on both sides of the street. The doors of these palaces were tightly shut, and they were full of mystery. Whoosh! Lu Ming took a step and rushed up the high wall of one of the palaces, looking inside. At one glance, Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. Inside the palaces was a small courtyard, and the courtyard was filled with skeletons. There was also a corpse lying in the courtyard. Its eyes were wide open, and there was still fear in them, but there was no sign of life. As expected, there is something wrong with these palaces. Lu Ming looked at the door in front of the courtyard. The door was open and it was dark inside. He could not see what was going on, as if a terrifying demon was hiding inside. Hell suppressing heaven's skill. Suddenly, Lu Ming roared and punched the air in front of him, because at this moment, Lu Ming felt a dangerous aura descending. Boom! A phantom of the hell-suppressing monument appeared in Lu Ming's palm, as if it could suppress everything. The space trembled, and a black phantom appeared in front of Lu Ming. It seemed to be suppressed by the power of the hell-suppressing monument, and it was rapidly twisting. This is... Lu Ming's eyes were filled with surprise. This was a black shadow that did not seem to have a physical body. It was just a phantom with a ferocious face. Under the power of the hell-suppressing monument, it was twisting crazily, and it was even screaming. The black shadow twisted and screamed, as if it wanted to pounce on Lu Ming. Resentment, this is resentment, Dandan said with a frown on her face. What is resentment? Lu Ming asked. According to my conjecture, the owner of this ancient city must have died with extreme unwillingness. His cultivation base was extremely high, and before he died, he produced a terrifying amount of resentment. After that, there were people who came after him who were killed by his resentment, resulting in even more resentment. These resentment are all incomparably terrifying and formless, making them extremely difficult to kill. Dandan explained, "There's actually such a strange thing in this world." Lu Ming frowned. He increased the power of the suppressing hell skill, and the suppressing hell monument trembled. The black shadow twisted and then collapsed. He's not that strong. Lu Ming pursed his lips. Lu Ming, don't be so smug. That's because you have the bloodline of the prison suppressing steel, and you obtained a fragment of it. The prison suppressing steel can suppress everything, especially evil things. That's why you were able to suppress and kill it. If you used other methods, it would be very difficult to kill a wisp of resentment. Dandan glanced at Lu Ming in disdain. I see. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Lu Ming, you have to be careful. That wisp of resentment was produced by someone who came after him. If you encounter the resentment produced by the owner of this place, it won't be so easy to deal with it, Dandan warned. Lu Ming nodded. He did not stop here and continued to walk deeper into the ancient city. From time to time, he could hear miserable screams. Such a strange thing made many people afraid. Many experts gathered together, helping each other and working together. This way, the situation was much better, and there were fewer miserable screams. The group continued forward and soon reached the center of the ancient city. In the center of the ancient city, there was a large group of palaces. It was like a palace, and there were countless palaces. Buzz! At this moment, a beam of light shot out from the depths of the palaces. Everyone saw a jade talisman in the beam of light. Could that be the cultivation method of a pure spirit body? Many people's eyes lit up. It must be, it must be. The cultivation method of a pure spirit body is mine. Get lost, it's mine. Many people's eyes were burning with passion as they rushed in the direction of the palaces. Ha ha ha, the pure spirit body is mine in the end. An old man in a black robe had a greedy look in his eyes. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. He was the one who distributed all the maps. His goal was to find the cultivation method of a pure spirit body. Whoosh! With a flicker of his body, he scuttled out like a ghost. The cultivation method of a pure spirit body belongs to the Sea Conqueror's residence. Hai Tian, Hai Yu, and the others also rushed madly into the palaces. The treasures of the ancestral land belong to the Sea Demon clan. Flood Dragon Prime roared and led the experts of the Sea Demon clan into the depths of the palaces. Lu Ming did not rush in immediately. Lu Ming, you have to be careful. The resentment in the palaces is very strong. It's very scary, Dandan said. Lu Ming nodded. He followed behind everyone and dashed in slowly. Sure enough, many people rushed into the palaces and let out miserable screams. What the hell is that? Kill! Kill! The group of palaces was in a mess. The fledgling domain is useful against it. Kill it with the fledgling domain, a supreme being shouted. Lu Ming saw a supreme being using the fledgling domain to cover an area. In the fledgling domain, the black shadow formed by the resentment appeared and was finally destroyed by the fledgling domain. After discovering the secret, the supreme beings used the fledgling domain to cover an area and destroy the resentment. In an instant, the situation reversed. Many supreme beings rushed towards the jade token. Lu Ming followed behind and did not act rashly. It's mine. Among the palaces, an old man in a black robe was the fastest. He flashed like a ghost and was the first to approach the jade token. He tapped his foot on one of the palaces and soared into the sky, grabbing the jade pendant. How dare you? You're courting death. Hai Yu shouted, Get lost! Supreme Being Flood Dragon also roared. The other Supreme Beings also rushed over. Haha, I was the one who distributed the map. The cultivation method of the pure spirit body belongs to me. The old man in the black robe laughed, and a terrifying aura spread out from his body. There was no doubt that the old man in the black robe was a Supreme Being. Moreover, he was not an ordinary Supreme Being. The bloodline that he had awakened was definitely not weak. The old man in the black robe was about to grab the jade token. At this moment, the old man in the black robe suddenly widened his eyes and revealed a look of shock. In the end, he roared angrily, "Get out of here! Get out! Get out of here!" Then, the old man in the black robe let out a shrill roar. The power in his body erupted crazily. Some of the palaces in the ancient city collapsed and turned into dust under this power. What's going on? Many people were shocked and could not help but stop in their tracks, not daring to go forward. Chapter 1288. It was obvious that the black-robed old man had suffered a terrifying attack. Judging from the strength that the black-robed old man had, it was definitely terrifying. He was close to Haiyu and Flood Dragon Supreme. However, even with such strength, he was still in a miserable state. The black-robed old man shouted as he tumbled in the air, attacking randomly. Then, everyone was shocked to find that the black-robed old man's body was shriveling, as if the vitality in his body was slowly disappearing. At the same time, a black shadow appeared around the black-robed old man's body. It was twisted and ferocious. It was that kind of resentment. It's that damn thing again. Why is this one so strong? What the hell is that? Someone's voice trembled. Squeak, squeak. The black shadow let out an ear-piercing sound and suddenly drilled into the black-robed old man's body. The black-robed old man let out an incomparably mournful scream, then stopped struggling. The vitality in his body had completely disappeared. His eyes were wide open, filled with shock, disbelief, and unwillingness. He racked his brains and spent dozens of years, but he still couldn't find the cultivation method of a pure spirit body. In the end, he made up his mind and made hundreds of copies of the map, hoping to borrow the help of others to find the cultivation method of a pure spirit body. Seeing that he was about to reach the final step, the cultivation method of the pure spiritual body was about to fall into his hands. His long-cherished wish was about to be fulfilled, but he had inexplicably died here. How could he be willing to accept this? Whoosh! After the black-robed old man died, the twisted black shadow reappeared and looked ferociously at Haiyu, Flood Dragon Supreme, and the others, causing them to feel a chill in their hearts. I'm afraid that this thing is only at the embryonic stage of a domain. I suggest that we work together to destroy this damn thing first, then fight for the jade token with our own abilities. How about that? Haiyu suggested as he looked at Flood Dragon Supreme. The only person he was afraid of here was Flood Dragon Supreme. All right, I'll work together with you guys first, Flood Dragon Supreme said. Flood Dragon Supreme was also afraid of that resentment. What about you guys? Haiyu looked at the other Supremes. I'm willing. Of course I'm willing. The other Supremes nodded. All right, then let's join hands and unleash the embryonic form of our domains. Let's go. Haiyu shouted. He thrust out his palm, and the embryonic form of his domain spread out at a speed visible to the naked eye, spreading towards the black shadow. Creak, creak. That black shadow seemed to be afraid of the fledgling domain. It squeaked and swayed its body, trying to dodge. Attack! Attack! The other Supremes, including the Supremes of the Sea Demon clan, also made their moves. Numerous embryonic domains spread out and permeated toward the black figure. There were more than 39 heavens, Supremes, on the scene. They immediately set up their domains to seal off the place. The black figure had nowhere to run, and was soon enveloped by layers of domains. Creak, creak, the black figure let out a shriek. It was as if it had sunk into a quagmire, unable to move its body. Obliterate! Destroy! More than 30 Supremes roared. They controlled the embryonic form of their domains and unleashed a shocking destructive force, trying to obliterate the black figure. The black figure kept twisting and screaming, struggling with all its might. However, it was useless. It was trapped by the layers of domains. Under the destructive force, its body slowly shrank and was slowly obliterated. As time passed, the black figure became smaller and smaller. After a while, with a bang, the black shadow collapsed and turned into nothingness. The black figure was finally destroyed under the combined efforts of dozens of Supremes. This time, many greedy eyes stared at the jade pendant. After the black figure was destroyed, everyone's eyes naturally focused on the jade pendant. Creak, creak. Just as everyone was about to make their move, another ear-piercing sound was heard. This time, it wasn't just one or two, but a whole bunch of them. Squeaks and screams converged and sounded from all directions. Then, everyone saw in horror that many black figures flew out from the surrounding palaces. They were exactly the same as the previous one. At the same time, more and more black figures flew out from the palaces behind them. Countless black figures screamed and twisted. They were hideous and terrifying. Like a black storm, they swept towards everyone. At this moment, Haiyu, Supreme Flood Dragon, and the others turned pale. There was no trace of blood in their faces. Save me, big brother, save me. Especially Hai Tian, he was so scared that he screamed. His whole body was trembling, and a foul smell came from his pants. It turned out that he was so scared that he wet himself. Charge out. Haiyu let out a roar and pulled Hai Tian along as he madly charged outside. Charge! The others also charged out. At this moment, no one was thinking about the cultivation method of the pure spirit body. There was only one thing in their mind, and that was to charge out and save their lives. Boom! 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 Everyone unleashed all kinds of attacks. Unfortunately, it was useless. Ordinary attacks were useless against those black figures. Only the embryonic form of a Supreme's domain was effective. Aha! Blood-curdling screams resounded. Many high-level spiritual god experts were entangled by the black figures and suffered terrifying attacks. Some people screamed as they were killed by the black figures. Those Supremes used their embryonic forms of domains to protect themselves and continuously charged out. Many smart spiritual god experts followed closely behind these Supremes and did their best to charge out. Countless black figures charged towards the group. Now, at this moment, Lu Ming suddenly turned around and rushed towards the jade token. He circulated the suppressing hell heavenly art and struck out with his palm. His palm carried the suppressing hell steel shadow, and the suppressing hell steel's unique suppressive force erupted. Creak! Several black figures screamed under Lu Ming's palm and the suppressing hell heavenly art. They were constantly twisting and seemed to be in great pain. Lu Ming punched out a few more times, and several black figures retreated far away. Lu Ming took large strides towards the jade token. As he charged, he continuously used the suppressing hell heavenly art. The suppressing hell heavenly art seemed to be the nemesis of those black figures. Wherever the suppressing hell heavenly art enveloped, those black figures retreated rapidly. What's going on? Some people widened their eyes in shock when they saw this scene. It's him, it's Lu Ming. He can restrain those black figures. Someone shouted as he recognized Lu Ming. Damn it, big brother, it's him, it's that Lu Ming. Hai Tian also saw this scene and shouted in jealousy. Humph, let's leave this place first. Even if he can get the jade token, he can't get out of here. Haiyu snorted coldly and led Hai Tian out with the help of other Supremes from the sea-suppressing Hell Marshal's residence. Of course, this was also because Lu Ming had attracted a large number of black figures when he rushed towards the jade token. This reduced the pressure on Haiyu and the others by a lot. Otherwise, they might not have been able to rush out. Chapter 1289. As for Lu Ming, he was getting closer and closer to the jade pendant. The closer he was to the jade pendant, the more irritated the black shadows became. They screamed with all their might and rushed towards Lu Ming without any regard for their lives. Some of the black shadows were extremely powerful and could pose a fatal threat to supreme beings. Lu Ming could not repel them even with the hell-suppressing heaven skill. Hell-suppressing steel. Lu Ming's spine glowed, and the bloodline of the hell-suppressing steel appeared. Lu Ming performed the bloodline fusion and turned into the bloodline of the hell-suppressing steel. Below, the word steel emitted a dazzling light, and the suppressive force was greatly enhanced. Boom! The hell-suppressing steel grew as big as a mountain and pressed down on the black shadows. Squeak, squeak, squeak! With a series of screams, the black shadows were enveloped by the hell-suppressing steel and distorted rapidly. Then they collapsed and disappeared from the world like black smoke. Even the black shadows that could pose a threat to supreme beings were the same. Under the suppression of the hell-suppressing steel, they could not resist for long and also turned into black smoke. Swoosh! The hell-suppressing steel's bloodline vibrated and the suppressive force exploded. A large number of black shadows turned into ashes. Lu Ming was not hindered at all and flew towards the jade pendant. In a few breaths, Lu Ming was close to the jade pendant. The hell-suppressing steel shrunk and turned back into Lu Ming's appearance. It stretched out its hand and grabbed the jade pendant. Bang! At this moment, the jade pendant suddenly exploded, turning into green smoke and dissipating. What's going on? Lu Ming's face changed and became gloomy. Could it be that everything was fake? The cultivation method of the pure spirit body was fake? Was it all a scam? They were tricked into coming here and there was nothing? Thinking of this, Lu Ming's face turned even uglier. No. Lu Ming suddenly looked at a palace below. There, in the courtyard of a palace, a figure was sitting cross-legged. It was a middle-aged man. He looked like a living person, very lifelike. However, Lu Ming scanned with his spiritual consciousness and knew that this person did not have any vitality and had died many years ago. However, this person's cultivation was too strong, and his physical body was strong. Even after so many years, his physical body did not decompose. This person might be the owner of this place. Lu Ming's heart moved as he guessed. At the thought of this, Lu Ming landed in the courtyard. However, Lu Ming did not dare to let his guard down. He was on his guard, and at the same time, he called Bubbles out to squat on his shoulder. If anything went wrong, he could make use of Bubbles' space-time ability to escape quickly. However, after careful observation, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Moreover, when Lu Ming landed in this courtyard, the black shadows above all stopped and did not continue to pursue Lu Ming. Lu Ming observed for a while and looked disappointed. Apparently, this powerful cultivator's storage ring had been taken away after his death. He did not leave anything behind. Initially, Lu Ming thought that he would be able to obtain the cultivation method of a pure spirit body. However, it seemed impossible. Lu Ming was stunned because the middle-aged man's forehead began to glow. Then, a jade token emerged from the middle-aged man's forehead and floated above his head. When the jade token appeared, the middle-aged man's corpse exploded with a bang, turning into a pile of ashes that drifted away with the wind and disappeared between heaven and earth. There was only one jade token floating in the courtyard. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He condensed his vital essence and condensed it into a big hand. He grabbed the jade token and held it in his hand. Is this the cultivation method of the pure spirit body? Lu Ming's heart pounded. He scanned the jade token with his spiritual consciousness. In the next moment, Lu Ming's face revealed a look of surprise. Yes, the jade token really did record a secret method, the cultivation method of the pure spirit body. Cultivating the pure spirit body would give one part of the power of the pure spirit body. Moreover, with the foundation of the pure spirit body, it would be much easier to cultivate the pure spirit body in the future. It was exactly the same as the rumors in the outside world. Lu Ming was ecstatic. If he cultivated the pure spirit body, his combat strength would definitely increase greatly. It would be much easier for him to break through to become a ruler in the future. Also, the cultivation method of the pure spirit body could be regarded as an important inheritance. In the future, his family and friends could cultivate it. In that way, the chances of them breaking through to become a ruler would be much higher. This trip wasn't in vain. Lu Ming laughed out loud. He carefully read the cultivation method of the pure spirit body again and memorized the contents. Then he carefully put the jade token away. Following that, he looked around the hall and did not find anything else. Lu Ming soared into the sky and planned to leave. When the middle-aged man's body turned into ashes, the black shadows in the world also turned into wisps of black smoke and disappeared into the world as if they had never been there. Swoosh! Lu Ming soared into the sky and landed on the roof of a hall. Then he ran out of the ancient city. Soon he had run more than half the distance and was getting closer to the exit. Swoosh! Swoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, the sound of the air being torn apart was heard. Figures appeared in front of Lu Ming and blocked his path. There were a total of 10 people. One of them was Hai Tian and the other was Hai Yu. The other 8 were all Supreme Being powerhouses brought by Hai Tian and Hai Yu. The 9 Supreme Beings blocked Lu Ming's path. Lu Ming, hand over the cultivation method of the pure spirit body. Hai Tian stared greedily at Lu Ming. If the cultivation method of the pure spirit body fell into the hands of a great force like the Sea Suppression Marshal's residence, it would definitely play a terrifying role. There would be many more powerhouses and even more rulers. Who said that I've obtained the cultivation method of the pure spirit body? Lu Ming replied indifferently. He did not admit that he had obtained the cultivation method of the pure spirit body. Is there any use in quibbling? I clearly saw you rushing towards the jade pendant. You must have gotten it. Hand it over immediately. Otherwise, we'll kill you and take your storage ring. It's the same. Hai Tian shouted coldly. As for the fact that Lu Ming had attracted a large number of black shadows and allowed them to escape, he did not care at all. In his opinion, Lu Ming attracting the black shadows and letting them escape was something Lu Ming should do. It was Lu Ming's honor. Now, Lu Ming had to hand over the cultivation method of the pure spirit body. Otherwise, he would die. The cultivation method of the pure spirit body belongs to our sea demon tribe. At this moment, a loud roar was heard. One by one, tall figures rushed over and appeared behind Lu Ming, surrounding Lu Ming. It was the Flood Dragon Supreme Being and the other Supreme Being powerhouses of the Sea Demon tribe. There were a total of 10 of them. Now, the Sea Demon tribe had turned into human form, but the tyrannical aura on them was terrifying. Damn it! Hai Yu and the others growled. They looked at the Flood Dragon Supreme Being and the others with some fear. This person is a human. The cultivation method of the pure spirit body he obtained should belong to us humans. Chapter 1290. Ha ha ha, what a joke! This is the ancestral land of the sea demon race. The cultivation method of the pure spiritual body naturally belongs to the sea demon race. The supreme flood dragon laughed as he stared at Hai Yu coldly. His powerful aura locked onto Lu Ming. Hai Yu did the same. He released his aura and stared at the supreme flood dragon. In their eyes, their greatest enemy was each other. As for Lu Ming, although he was strong, he was alone. They didn't take him seriously at all. Lu Ming, why aren't you handing over the cultivation method of the pure spiritual body? Hurry up and hand it over. I can let bygones be bygones for beating up my brother. Hai Yu shouted coldly. He was slowly losing his patience. Haha, do you really think you can take me down? Lu Ming sneered. Are you still thinking of resisting? Let me tell you, you're courting death. Hai Yu shouted. He wasn't trying to let Lu Ming go out of kindness. He was just afraid that Lu Ming would fight back and give the sea demon race an opportunity. Is that so? Lu Ming's lips curled up slightly. Suddenly, he pounced towards one of the Supremes from the Sea Conqueror's residence. Roar! In the process of pouncing, the 9 dragon forces in Lu Ming's body erupted. At the same time, the third bloodline appeared and a powerful force surged into Lu Ming's body. Boom! Lu Ming threw a punch towards the Supremes. The suppressing prison, Steel's bloodline, vaguely appeared. The Supremes were shocked. He obviously didn't expect Lu Ming to suddenly attack him under such circumstances. In a hurry, he tried his best to fight back. But when the two of them exchanged blows, the Supremes from the Sea Conqueror's residence trembled violently. He retreated rapidly and spat out blood from his mouth. With Lu Ming's current strength, it was easy for him to suppress an ordinary Supremes. Moreover, the Supremes weren't prepared at all. Kill! After injuring the other party with one move, Lu Ming bellowed and stepped forward. The 9 dragons' bloodline appeared above his head. Lu Ming performed bloodline fusion and transformed into 9 dragons. The dragon claws stepped out and shattered the void. The terrifying pressure caused the Paragon's heart to tremble. He hurriedly used bloodline fusion, hoping to block Lu Ming. However, it was all in vain. Lu Ming's dragon claws slashed down continuously, breaking apart the opponent's bloodline power, causing his bloodline body to collapse and reverting back to human form. Whoosh! The dragon claws did not stop and continued to claw downwards. No! That person roared, and in the next instant, the dragon claw reached into his dantian. A violent power tore his body apart, and even his spiritual deity was torn to shreds. Both body and soul were destroyed. A supreme martial artist was annihilated in a few moves by Lu Ming when he launched an attack. Fast, too fast. It was so fast that Haiyu and the others only reacted now. You're courting death. Haiyu let out a furious roar, and the battle axe in his hand chopped down at the 9 dragons' heads. This axe seemed to be able to split the heavens and earth. Its power was shocking. The pitch-black axe radiance instantly chopped down on the 9 dragons' heads. Hell suppressing heaven's skill. Thunder God strike. A few of the 9 dragons' claws activated the hell suppressing heaven skill, while the other dragon claws executed Thunder God strike. Lightning filled the sky, forming a lightning phoenix that danced in the air, pouncing towards Haiyu's battle axe. Boom! 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 After a few consecutive explosions, the 9 dragon claws landed on the battle axe. With each explosion, Lu Ming's body trembled slightly. After 9 explosions, Lu Ming was forced back 9 steps. Haiyu's battle strength was too strong. He had awakened a 9th grade divine bloodline. Such a person was a peerless genius, and he could easily jump levels to fight. He was invincible among those of the same level. Moreover, his cultivation was far above Lu Ming's. He could force Lu Ming to retreat without using bloodline fusion. This showed how terrifying his battle strength was. Kill. When Haiyu saw that Lu Ming was able to block his attack, his killing intent exploded. With a loud roar, he held onto his battle axe and launched a barrage of attacks at Lu Ming. Tung! 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 The 9 dragons stepped in the air, and every inch of his muscles was a weapon. He could use the hell-suppressing heaven skill to fight against Haiyu. The terrifying force shattered the ancient city below. Many palaces were reduced to ashes by the force of the force. In an instant, the two exchanged more than 10 blows. Although Lu Ming was at a disadvantage, he wouldn't be defeated in a short time. Let's attack together. Haiyu ordered the other Supremes in the Sea suppressing Marshal's residence. At this moment, Supreme Flood Dragon and the rest were watching from afar. They did not make a move. This made Haiyu feel extremely pressured. He wanted to kill Lu Ming quickly and seize the cultivation method of the pure spirit body to prevent any undue delay. Whoosh! 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 The other Supremes also made their moves. Powerful attacks tore through the void and landed on Lu Ming. At the same time, a huge battle axe appeared above Haiyu's head. This was his bloodline. 9 golden chakras shone brightly. Haiyu turned into a beam of light and entered his bloodline. He used bloodline fusion and turned into a battle axe. He slashed at Lu Ming with even more power. Wang! The lightning cauldron appeared above Lu Ming's head. It expanded rapidly and collided with Haiyu's battle axe. Clang! The lightning cauldron and the battle axe collided. The space rippled like water, and thousands of lightning bolts were triggered. The lightning cauldron firmly blocked Haiyu's battle axe and even sent it flying. Then the divine dragon swung its tail, and with a sweep of its 9 tails, it destroyed the attacks of several supremes. Kill! Then Lu Ming roared and stepped out with his dragon claw. In the sky, 3 sealed doors suddenly appeared and enveloped a supreme being. Then he controlled the lightning cauldron and smashed it at the supreme being. The supreme being didn't even have time to scream. He was directly submerged by the lightning cauldron and shattered into pieces in the sea of lightning. Another supreme being was killed. Ah, damn it. Lu Ming, you must die today. Haiyu roared crazily. The supreme beings of the sea, suppressing Marshall's residents, were killed one after another. He was about to go crazy. The battle axe vibrated and split the heaven and earth. It slashed at Lu Ming with terrifying power. Clang! Lu Ming continued to block with the lightning cauldron and the battle axe. However, the battle axe was also sent flying. Whoosh! Dragon Claw stepped on the air. Lu Ming didn't continue to fight. Instead, he rushed out. After all, there were too many opponents. Lu Ming planned to leave this place first. It's about time. Let's attack. We can't let this kid escape. Not far away, the Flood Dragon Supreme, who had been watching the battle, said. At the same time, his body changed rapidly and turned into a black flood dragon that was 1,000 meters long. He pounced at Lu Ming. The other sea demons also turned into their true forms and attacked Lu Ming. With so many supreme beings attacking together, a pile of embryonic domains appeared and sealed the surroundings, completely blocking Lu Ming's escape route, especially the Flood Dragon Supreme. He was extremely powerful and wasn't any weaker than Haiyu. With so many people attacking together, Lu Ming felt a terrifying pressure. Kill! Haiyu yelled as well. Together with Supreme Flood Dragon and the rest, they charged towards Lu Ming. Bubble! At this moment, Lu Ming called out softly. Chirp, chirp. Chapter 1291. The 10 Supremes, including the Flood Dragon Supreme, were instantly frozen in the air, unable to move. This is the space-time concept. The Flood Dragon Supreme and the others roared in their hearts, their faces filled with fear. Kill! Lu Ming roared. His dragon claw stepped on the air and instantly appeared in front of a huge octopus. His dragon claw grabbed the octopus's 8 tentacles and tore it apart. The octopus let out a blood-curdling scream as its body was torn apart, dying on the spot. After killing another supreme martial artist, Lu Ming didn't stop at all and continued to kill the next one. This time, Lu Ming targeted Supreme Flood Dragon and charged toward him. Haiyu and the others' attacks arrived from behind. Lu Ming controlled the lightning cauldron and attacked Haiyu and the others. Mouth whirled. At the same time, Dandan also made its move. Its body became taller than a mountain as it spat out a ball of chaotic light from its mouth. It was like a real world. Dandan cooperated with the lightning cauldron and successfully blocked Haiyu and the Supremes from the sea suppressing Marshall's residence. As for Lu Ming, he continued to attack the Flood Dragon Supreme. He had to end the battle quickly. The power of the bubble's space-time imprisonment was limited. It couldn't hold on for long if it imprisoned so many Supremes at once. The 9 dragon claws were about to grab the Flood Dragon Supreme. Dragon Mark Sword. At this moment, the Flood Dragon Supreme let out a roar and spat out a black battle sword. This black battle sword had a true dragon coiling around it, and there were dragon patterns engraved on it. As soon as the battle sword appeared, Sword Chi soared into the sky. It slightly trembled and slashed towards the transparent bubble. With a puff, the transparent bubble cracked. As soon as the bubble cracked, the terrifying sword Qi seemed to have broken free from its restraints and slashed towards Lu Ming. Not good. It's an emperor's spiritual weapon. Lu Ming's face changed. He didn't dare to face it head-on. He executed the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps and quickly retreated, avoiding the terrifying sword Qi. Kill! The Flood Dragon Sovereign controlled the Dragon Vein sword and continued to attack Lu Ming. Sword Qi swept out in all directions. Lu Ming could only control the lightning cauldron to resist. With a clang, the lightning cauldron shook, and the lightning that filled the sky was cut apart. The lightning cauldron was sent flying, an emperor-grade spirit weapon. The Dragon Vein sword used by the Flood Dragon Sovereign was an emperor-level spiritual weapon. It was the emperor-level spiritual weapon among spiritual weapons. It was a top-notch existence with terrifying power. Most importantly, a ruler's spirit armament contained a domain. When a sovereign activated the domain within the ruler's spirit armament with their own embryonic domain, the power would be even more astonishing. Back then, with Yen Kuang-tu's supreme position and the Emperor's spirit tower, the combat strength he displayed was comparable to the weakest emperor. On the other hand, Yen Kuang-tu had only awakened a level 8 divine bloodline, which was weaker than Flood Dragon Sovereigns. Naturally, his battle strength was also weaker than Flood Dragon Sovereigns. In other words, with the help of a ruler's spirit weapon, the power unleashed by the Flood Dragon Supreme had completely reached the level of a ruler. In fact, it had even surpassed that of an ordinary ruler. Chirp, chirp, a transparent bubble appeared, enveloping the Flood Dragon Sovereign and the others within. They were frozen in place once again. Break for me. Flood Dragon Sovereign frantically activated the Dragon Vein sword, wanting to break free from the bubble's imprisonment. However, no matter how strong his battle strength was, it would still take some time for him to break free from the bubble. This amount of time was more than enough for Lu Ming. Lu Ming charged towards a shark sovereign. That shark sovereign couldn't move at all under the bubble's shroud. His body was torn apart by Lu Ming's dragon claws, and he died on the spot. Another supreme martial artist was killed. Bang! At this moment, Flood Dragon Sovereign finally broke free from the transparent bubble and charged towards Lu Ming with a furious roar. Lu Ming retreated. He didn't want to clash head-on with Flood Dragon Sovereign. All of you spread out. If anyone is trapped, help each other. Flood Dragon Sovereign yelled. The other Sea Demon Sovereigns spread out and attacked Lu Ming from afar. Their attacks tore through the void and headed towards Lu Ming. Die. At this moment, a cold voice rang out. A terrifying attack headed towards Lu Ming. The terrifying attack completely enveloped Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming's hair stood on end. He felt the threat of death. Hai Yu had originally used bloodline fusion to transform into a battle axe. However, at this moment, another battle axe appeared beside Hai Yu's battle axe, emitting an extremely terrifying aura. An Emperor's spiritual weapon. Another Emperor's spiritual weapon. Hai Yu also wielded an Emperor's spiritual weapon. With his cultivation, the might of his Emperor's spiritual weapon wasn't any weaker than Flood Dragon Sovereign's. Previously, he had been holding back and didn't use his Emperor's spiritual weapon. He was waiting for an opportunity to launch a fatal attack. With this attack, he wanted to kill Lu Ming in one fell swoop. This attack was indeed well grasped. In a hurry, Lu Ming controlled the Thunder Cauldron to block. However, Lu Ming's cultivation was still weak. Although the Thunder Cauldron was strong, it couldn't exert much of its power. It was slashed by the battle axe and flew far away. The battle axe didn't stop and continued to slash at Lu Ming. Nest, nest, watch me! Dandan shouted and retracted its limbs into its turtle shell. The turtle shell shone and flew out to block the battle axe. Clang! The battle axe slashed at the turtle shell and sent Dandan flying far away. However, after Dandan's block, Lu Ming had one opportunity. Using the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps, Lu Ming retreated like a stream of light, avoiding Hai Yu's fatal attack. At the same time, Bubble opened its mouth and spat out a transparent bubble that enveloped Hai Yu. Hai Yu roared and controlled his Emperor's spiritual weapon to attack the transparent bubble with all his might. At the same time, the attacks of Flood Dragon Sovereign and the other sea demons arrived. With so many Supremes and the 2 strongest Supremes with Emperor's spiritual weapons, Lu Ming was exhausted and was at a complete disadvantage. Moreover, the other party had learned their lesson. Everyone was spread out far away. Bubble's conception of time and space could not cover such a large area. At once, it could only cover 1 or 2 people. Seeing that one person had been enveloped and imprisoned, Lu Ming wanted to kill him. But the others immediately came to his rescue. More than a dozen terrifying attacks pierced through the void and attacked Lu Ming, giving him no time to kill the others. As a result, even if Lu Ming, Dandan, and Bubble worked together, they were still very passive and were no match for the other party. The situation was very critical. There were too many people on the other side. In total, there were nearly 20 Supremes, and 2 of them were top-notch Supremes. Their combat strength was already terrifying, and with the addition of Emperor spiritual weapons, it was like 2 rulers were attacking. With so many people working together, it was normal for Lu Ming and the others to be no match for them. If it were anyone else, even an ordinary ruler, they would not be a match for them and would be seriously injured. It was already shocking that Lu Ming could barely resist. However, if this continued, it would be more and more disadvantageous for Lu Ming. In the blink of an eye, another dozen or so moves had been exchanged. The light on the 9 dragons' bloodline began to dim. His bloodline power is about to be exhausted. Kill. He's dead for sure. Hai Yu and the others were overjoyed. Bang. At this moment, the 9 dragons' bloodline collapsed. But before Hai Yu, Flood Dragon Sovereign, and the others could smile, a stone tablet appeared and rapidly grew in size. Chapter 1292. Clang! The lower part of the suppressing steel's bloodline was the main body. It was invincible and blocked the dragon vein sword attack. Although it was sent flying, it wasn't destroyed. Yeah, my intent of Earth is about to break through. At this moment, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Originally, when he entered the depths of the sea, his intent of Earth was already showing signs of loosening. After a series of battles, Lu Ming circulated his 5 intents to the extreme. In addition, Lu Ming was using the bloodline of the suppressing steel, which made him feel closer to the intent of Earth, as if he would break through at any moment. Buzz! Buzz! The prison-suppressing steel vibrated. Together with Bubbles, Dandan, Hai Yu, Supreme Flood Dragon, and the rest, Lu Ming unleashed all his abilities to the maximum. While fighting, Lu Ming was still comprehending the Earth concept. As long as he succeeded in comprehending the intent of Earth and broke through to the perfect 4th stage, Lu Ming's battle strength would also increase. Lu Ming would also have a greater chance of breaking out of the encirclement. Mountain Sea Slash! Hai Yu roared. At this point in the battle, Hai Yu had completely lost his patience. He unleashed his battle strength to the extreme, eager to kill Lu Ming. At this moment, he had already returned to his human form. Holding the emperor-grade giant axe in his hand, he constantly slashed at Lu Ming. Hai Yu's main intent was the intent of Earth. When the axe slashed out, the terrifying pressure of the intent of Earth acted on Lu Ming's body, as if it wanted to break Lu Ming's body. However, Lu Ming wasn't shocked. Instead, he was happy. I'll use you to help me break through. Lu Ming's eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness. He controlled the lightning cauldron and charged at Hai Yu. This time, Lu Ming didn't choose to retreat. Instead, he chose to fight Hai Yu head-on. Haha, die. Seeing Lu Ming charging at him, Hai Yu was overjoyed. The power of the axe in his hand couldn't help but increase a little. Clang! The axe and the lightning cauldron clashed, causing a violent tremor. A terrifying force surged, causing Lu Ming's body to tremble violently as he retreated. "Dandan, Bubble, help me hold off the sea monsters for now." Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Dandan and Bubbles. "Chirp, chirp." Bubble waved its claws and nodded repeatedly, indicating that there was no problem. Dandan, on the other hand, was full of resentment. It kept muttering that it wanted Lu Ming to compensate it. However, Dandan and Bubble were indeed worthy of being one of the top 10 war beasts. Although they hadn't fully matured yet, they were able to unleash their full strength and cooperate with each other. Although they couldn't defeat the Flood Dragon Sovereign, they could still delay him for a short period of time. Lu Ming, on the other hand, was wholeheartedly focused on fighting Haiyu. He wanted to use the sea to break through the concept of Earth. Clang, clang, clang. Lu Ming used the lightning cauldron as a shield to block the other party's Emperor Spirit weapon and engaged in a great battle with Haiyu. Although Lu Ming was completely at a disadvantage, Haiyu couldn't kill Lu Ming for the time being. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of moves. Almost there, almost there. With the help of Haiyu's concept of Earth and his own body, Lu Ming felt that his understanding of the concept of Earth was constantly deepening, and he could break through at any time. Earth, all-inclusive, can give birth to life. Give birth to all things, contain everything. Thick and broad, Lu Ming's mind was constantly spinning with thoughts. At this time, many figures appeared in the distance where Lu Ming and the others were fighting. They were all people who had entered this place. They were watching from afar, and there were high-level spirit, god experts, and supreme being experts. At this moment, they were all incomparably shocked. Is that Lu Ming's battle strength? It's really shocking. The strongest youth expert is too strong. Even after Haiyu and the Flood Dragon Sovereign used their Emperor Spirit weapons, together with the cooperation of a dozen other supreme beings, they still couldn't take him down. Terrifying, too terrifying. Moreover, Lu Ming's two pets are also incomparably terrifying. The onlookers exclaimed in amazement. They looked at Lu Ming with astonishment. Of course, there were also supreme beings who had other thoughts. It seems like the pure spirit body cultivation method has fallen into Lu Ming's hands. The stronger Lu Ming is, the better. It's best if he and Haiyu and the others are both injured. At that time, I can sit back and reap the benefits, some supreme beings thought. In fact, it wasn't only the supreme being who thought so. The other supreme beings also had the same thought. These supreme beings had all entered by themselves. At most, there were two of them working together. They weren't a match for Haiyu or the Flood Dragon Sovereign. If the pure spirit body cultivation method fell into the hands of Haiyu or the Flood Dragon Sovereign, they would have no hope at all. However, if Lu Ming could injure both of them, they would have some hope. How is this possible? How can Lu Ming be so strong? How can there be such a strong person in the younger generation? I can't accept it. Not far away, Haitian muttered to himself. His eyes were filled with jealousy. He was the most shocked. Lu Ming's battle strength had exceeded his imagination again and again. At this moment, on the 9th island in the sea, there was a sea of people. Many martial artists with low cultivation bases who couldn't go deep into the sea were waiting here. They couldn't go deep into the sea, so they waited here to see if there was a pure spirit body cultivation method and who could get it. Rip. At this moment, the space suddenly split open, and a figure stepped out from it. It was a gray-haired old man wearing a purple gold robe. As soon as he appeared, an earth-shattering aura spread out, making it difficult for people to breathe. It was as if there was a mountain pressing down on them. Sovereign, it's the sovereign. Judging from his attire, it's the sovereign of the sea-suppressing marshal's residence. The eldest son of the sea-suppressing marshal. Haiyu is here personally. Now, even the sovereign is here. Many people exclaimed. They looked at the purple gold, robed old man with fear. Even the sovereign was here. After the purple gold, robed old man appeared, he casually glanced around. Then he stood calmly in the void and didn't enter the sea. In the depths of the sea, in the ancient city, Lu Ming and Hai Yu exchanged a few blows. Lu Ming, we have to find a way to break out. We can't hold on any longer, Dandan shouted, waving its claws. All kinds of inscriptions spread out in the air, forming a large formation. At the same time, Dandan also used all kinds of martial arts, all of which were mysterious and dazzling. Almost done. Lu Ming's eyes became brighter and brighter. Suddenly, among the 5 intents on his body, the earthy yellow intents suddenly soared. Its power increased by a notch, surpassing the other 4 intents. The earth intent finally broke through and reached level 4 perfection. In this way, all 5 of Lu Ming's intents reached level 4 perfection. Clang! The 5 intents combined with the thunder cauldron and clashed with Hai Yu. In the roar, Lu Ming retreated. But this time, Lu Ming retreated less than before. So what if you broke through? You're still going to die. Hai Yu shouted, holding the battle axe, and continued to attack Lu Ming. Dandan, Bubbles, that's enough. Get ready to break out. Lu Ming transmitted to Dandan and Bubbles, preparing to let Bubbles use the space-time tunnel to break out. Chapter 1293. A token suddenly flew out from Lu Ming's body, floating above Lu Ming's head, emitting a blinding light. It was the primordial chaos token. The token that suddenly appeared on Lu Ming's body was actually the primordial chaos token. Why would the primordial chaos token suddenly appear at this time? Lu Ming was bewildered. As soon as the primordial chaos token appeared, the 5 types of concepts on Lu Ming's body took the initiative to wrap around the primordial chaos token, making the primordial chaos token shine even brighter. Bang! Hai Yu's axe chopped down on the primordial chaos token's light. The light did not move at all. Instead, it was Hai Yu who was repelled by a powerful force, retreating again and again. Following that, the primordial chaos token scattered a beam of light, enveloping Lu Ming inside. Lu Ming felt a powerful pulling force, wanting to pull Lu Ming to another place. What's going on? Lu Ming was alarmed. Rip! Suddenly, space trembled. Lu Ming felt the world spin. Everything before his eyes turned black, falling into boundless darkness. Lu Ming had a feeling that he seemed to be passing through the endless void, carrying out a void journey. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Ming felt that he had recovered his ability to move. In front of his eyes, there was also light shining into Lu Ming's eyes. Lu Ming subconsciously opened his eyes and looked around. Sure enough, the surrounding environment had changed. He was no longer in the ancient underwater city, but in a great hall. The great hall was tall and majestic. The surrounding walls were built with a kind of boulder full of an ancient aura. Moreover, on the walls, there was a kind of chaotic fog floating. This kind of fog was something Lu Ming had never seen before, but it gave him a lofty and ancient feeling. Where is this? Did the primordial chaos token bring me here? A series of questions appeared in Lu Ming's heart. Previously, the primordial chaos token suddenly appeared on its own, emitting a blinding light. The reason why he appeared here was definitely related to the primordial chaos token. But why would the primordial chaos token suddenly have an abnormality and bring him here at that time? What was the reason? The more he thought about it, the more questions Lu Ming had. Also, Dandan and Bubbles were still in the ancient underwater city and didn't follow them. He didn't know if they would be in danger facing Hai Yu and the others. Dandan and Bubbles are both top 10 beasts. Their life-saving methods must be superb. They should be fine. Lu Ming consoled himself. Then he carefully observed his surroundings. There was nothing in the empty hall. There was no one. There was only a huge door in front of the hall. It seemed to be a passageway. "Excuse me, is anyone here?" Lu Ming opened his mouth, but there was no one there. He didn't get any reply. Lu Ming frowned and asked again, but there was still no answer. Just when Lu Ming thought that there were no living creatures here, a voice suddenly sounded. "How many years has it been?" Finally, someone has come. The voice was dry and ear-piercing, as if it was devoid of any emotions. Senior, Junior Lu Ming, may I know why you brought me here? Hearing the voice, Lu Ming's spirit was refreshed, and he cupped his fists towards the void. The primordial chaos token brought you here because you met the requirements. The dry voice sounded again. Then, in front of Lu Ming, the space rippled and a figure stepped out of it. Huh. Seeing this figure, Lu Ming was slightly taken aback, because this figure was very strange. Although it was a middle-aged man, his whole body was khaki. Even his skin and hair were khaki, as if he was carved out of stone. However, this khaki man gave Lu Ming a feeling that he was vast and unfathomable. It was as if he was facing the world. Strong, this was definitely an incredible powerhouse. His strength was beyond Lu Ming's imagination. You don't have to be surprised. I'm not a human. I'm just a puppet. The khaki man said, Puppet. Lu Ming was shocked. The khaki man was actually a puppet, but it seemed that he also had human thoughts and emotions. Moreover, his cultivation was unfathomable. This was actually a puppet. What kind of existence was this? Could he refine such a puppet? Senior, may I ask where this place is? How did I appear here? Lu Ming asked humbly. This is the Primordial Chaos Sect, the Primordial Chaos Palace. Also, my name is 2E. The khaki man explained. Primordial Chaos Sect. It's the Primordial Chaos Sect again. Lu Ming's eyes moved. In the ruins of God, he had heard Dandan say that it was the space-time spirit palace, which also belonged to the Primordial Chaos Sect. And this place was also the Primordial Chaos Sect. Sure enough, the Battle of Providence was related to the Primordial Chaos Sect. Senior 2E, is this place no longer in the Yuan realm? Lu Ming asked. Yes, this place is the Heaven Realm. 2E said, The Heaven Realm. Lu Ming was shocked. Just now, the Primordial Chaos token had brought him to the Heaven Realm. You should have a lot of questions. I can explain it to you. You should have obtained the Primordial Chaos token through the Battle of Providence. There are not many people who can obtain the Primordial Chaos token. Only those who are considered to have great potential can obtain the Primordial Chaos token. And you should have cultivated 5 different types of wills of heaven and earth. Moreover, all 5 wills have reached the peak of the 4th level. Therefore, the Primordial Chaos token was activated and brought you to the Primordial Chaos Palace. Here, you will be tested. If you can pass the test, you will be able to obtain the Primordial Chaos Scripture and combine the 5 wills you have comprehended into one. From then on, you will transform into the supreme Primordial Chaos concept. 2E explained in detail. Primordial Chaos concept? Is there really a Primordial Chaos concept in the world? Lu Ming was shocked and his eyes widened. He had also heard of the Primordial Chaos concept. It was a supreme concept. According to legend, the universe came from chaos. The Primordial Chaos concept was a concept that transcended time and space. If the time and space concepts were the kings of the wills, then the Primordial Chaos concept was the emperor of the wills. Lu Ming had always thought that the Primordial Chaos concept was only a legend. He did not expect such a concept to exist in the world. Moreover, according to 2E, as long as Lu Ming passed the test, he would be able to obtain the Primordial Chaos Scripture and cultivate the Primordial Chaos concept. Lu Ming's heart could not help but beat rapidly. The Primordial Chaos Scripture was created by the strongest person in the Primordial Chaos sect. It can allow you to cultivate the Primordial Chaos concept. After becoming an emperor, you can transform into the Primordial Chaos domain. Later on, you can even transform into the law of Primordial Chaos. It is the strongest secret scripture in the world. However, if you want to cultivate it, the conditions are extremely harsh. First, you have to cultivate 5 different types of wills to the peak of the 4th level. All right, show me the wills you have comprehended. Let me have a look. 2E said. All right. Lu Ming quickly nodded. The 5 types of wills burst out, and 5 colored rays of light twined around Lu Ming's body. It was dazzling. Chapter 1294. The concept of earth, concept of wind, concept of fire, concept of thunder, and concept of water are indeed 5 different types of concepts, and they are fused together. You barely qualify to take the test, but whether you can obtain the primal chaos scripture or successfully cultivate it, you still have to go through a series of tests. 2E looked at the 5 types of intent surrounding Lu Ming and nodded slightly. Deep in his eyes, there was a glimmer of hope. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. He was amazed by the crazy requirements to cultivate the Chaos Sutra. First, one had to comprehend 5 completely different types of intent. For example, Lu Ming's earth intent, wind intent, fire intent, thunder intent, and water intent were 5 completely different types of intent. If Lu Ming cultivated the earth intent and the other type was the mountain intent or earth intent, it would be impossible. This was because the mountain intent or earth intent and the earth intent were of the same type. Or if one cultivated the water intent, ice intent, swamp intent, etc., it would also be impossible because their intrinsic attributes were the same. Only by cultivating 5 completely different types of intent to the peak of the 4th level was one in a billion geniuses. Furthermore, to successfully fuse all 5 types of intent was even more difficult. It was simply too harsh. If not for Lu Ming's 9 dragons bloodline, it would be impossible for him to achieve it. Lu Ming found it hard to imagine anyone in the world other than him who could achieve such a requirement. And this was only the initial requirement of the test. If he wanted to cultivate it, he still had to go through another test. All right, I've pretty much said everything that needs to be said. Now take the test. Enter that passage and walk straight ahead. If you can reach the end, you'll be able to obtain the primal chaos scripture and cultivate the concept of primal chaos. If you fail halfway, you'll be teleported out. Also, here, time is accelerated many times. Even if you stay here for a few years, it might only be a short while in the outside world. So, you can rest assured and take the test. 2E said, a few years here is only a short while in the outside world. Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he was overjoyed. He was worried that if he stayed here for too long, there would be changes in the outside world. For example, Dandin and Bubbles, or the situation in the divine wilderness continent. But now Lu Ming didn't have to worry. A few years here was just a short while in the outside world. What was there to worry about? At the same time, he was also amazed at the strength of the Hunyuan sect. What kind of power was the Hunyuan sect? It was truly unfathomable and unimaginably powerful. I must get the primal chaos scripture. Without any worries, Lu Ming's eyes shone with fighting spirit, and he clenched his fists. The chaotic concept was a legendary concept. If he could successfully cultivate it, his battle prowess would increase tremendously, and it would become his strongest trump card. Most importantly, the help it would provide in the future was unimaginable. Lu Ming's eyes slowly became firm. Senior 2E, I'll be going then. Lu Ming cupped his fists towards 2E, then stepped out and walked towards the tunnel. His figure slowly disappeared into the tunnel. How many years has it been? Finally, someone has come. This time we must succeed. Looking at Lu Ming's disappearing figure, 2Yi's eyes were filled with hope and expectation. He had been waiting for countless years. Over the long years, there were also outstanding geniuses who met the requirements and were brought here. Unfortunately, none of them could reach the end, pass all the tests, and cultivate the chaotic concept. Therefore, he could only wait. Every time someone came, it was a ray of hope. He was full of expectations, hoping that someone would succeed. 2E stood quietly in the main hall, waiting quietly. Lu Ming stepped into the tunnel. At first, everything was calm, but after walking for a while, the surrounding environment suddenly changed. Kill, kill, kill. Suddenly, Roars filled with killing intent rang out. Endless killing intent suddenly enveloped Lu Ming's body. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes suddenly turned red, as if countless beasts had been aroused in his heart. Lu Ming's heart was also filled with endless killing intent. This kind of killing intent was too cold and too strong. An ordinary person would become an idiot if they were hit by this kind of killing intent. However, Lu Ming's eyes only fluctuated for a while at first, then immediately calmed down. It's another killing intent test, but compared to the endless killing intent of the third bloodline, it's too weak. Lu Ming thought in his heart. His eyes became calmer and calmer, not affected by the killing intent. In fact, Lu Ming also understood why there was a killing intent test. Because in a martial artist's life, if they wanted to reach the peak, they had to kill their way out from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. This path was destined to be a path of blood, a path full of killing intent. Those who were not determined would be affected by the killing intent. Therefore, the test set by some powerful inheritances would test the killing intent. Unfortunately, Lu Ming's third bloodline had endless killing intent. Compared to the third bloodline, these tests were child's play. Despite the murderous intent shrouding him, Lu Ming remained indifferent. His gaze was calm as he walked forward step by step. Suddenly, the surrounding environment changed again. The endless killing intent disappeared without a trace. Squeak, squeak! Lu Ming could hear the melodious chirping of birds. It was crisp and pleasing to the ears. A gentle breeze blew, bringing with it the fragrance of flowers that refreshed the mind. It was completely different from the endless killing intent just now. Lu Ming's heart could not help but calm down. Looking up, Lu Ming found that he was outside a small mountain village. There was a small mountain village in front of him. Around the small mountain village, the grass was green, and there were all kinds of colorful flowers. There were birds flying and chirping. It was like a paradise. Ring, ring, ring. A melodious sound was heard. It was a 6 or 7-year-old girl. She looked very cute with a rosy face. She had a string of bells on her wrists and ankles. When she walked, they made melodious sounds. The little girl ran to Lu Ming's side and looked at Lu Ming curiously. She whispered, "Big brother, are you an outsider? Are you lost? Come to my house to play. Ling Ling will treat you to milk tea." After saying that, the little girl pulled Lu Ming's hand and walked toward the village. She was so innocent and cute that Lu Ming could not bear to refuse. "Hello, young man." A simple and honest man carrying a bunch of firewood greeted Lu Ming with a simple smile when he saw Lu Ming. Even though Lu Ming knew that this was an illusion, he could not help but be infected by the man's simplicity. He smiled and nodded at the man. "Mother, this big brother is lost. I brought him here to be a guest and treat him to milk tea." The little girl pulled Lu Ming into the village and came to a wooden house. In front of the wooden house, there was a young woman in her 30s. When she saw Lu Ming, she revealed a pure smile. She touched the little girl's head dotingly and said, "Since you are Ling Ling's friend, you are Mom's friend. Wait here. I will get the milk tea."